Chapter 459. Chapter 459. The Illusionist's Shoe. In the next moment, a pill shot out of the cauldron, and Ning Yu grabbed it firmly in his hand. Ning Yu also made a supreme, true martial Dan. Isn't this too unbelievable? It has only been 7 or 8 minutes since Ning Yu made the second batch of true martial Dan. How could Ning Yu make a supreme, true martial Dan? Let's wait and see. Maybe Ning Yu has really made a supreme, true martial Dan. At this time, Ning Yu refined a true martial Dan, which was really beyond everyone's expectations. However, no one believed that Ning Yu could really make a supreme, true martial Dan. After all, with such a crazy method, if he could really make a supreme, true martial Dan in such a short time, he would really be a genius among geniuses. Humph! Not to mention whether the true martial Dan refined by Ning Yu is transcendent grade or not. Even if it is a transcendent grade, true martial Dan, it is impossible for him to win. The third prince, Ouyang Hai, sneered. Ren Xiangtian has already made a supreme, true martial Dan before him. Third prince, how do you know I am doomed to fail? Holding the true martial Dan in his hand, Ning Yu slowly walked towards Ouyang Hai, interrupted him, and said lightly, "If I win, what will you do?" "This is impossible. Ren Xiangtian has already." "Could it be?" Ouyang Hai shouted. However, before his voice faded, his eyes widened and revealed a look of disbelief. "Nothing is impossible." Ning Yu placed the true martial pill in his hand on the table and said to Ren Xiangtian, "Take out the pill in your hand and let me have a look. If you can really refine a transcendent, grade, true martial pill, I will concede defeat." Hearing Ning Yu's words, Ren Xiangtian's face turned gloomy. He stood there without moving. He knew the problem of the true martial Dan better than anyone else. Judging from the appearance, the true martial Dan he refined was infinitely close to the supreme grade. Even the soul force of the martial artist who had not reached level 6 could hardly find out that he was not refining a supreme grade, true martial Dan, but a supreme grade, true martial Dan. It could be said that if he didn't admit to it, perhaps only Ning Yu and Li Tongtian would have a sliver of a chance to know about it. On one hand, it was the outcome of the battle, and on the other hand, it was the condemnation and unease in his heart. At this moment, Ren Xiangtian found it extremely difficult to make a decision. Kacha! After pondering for 3 seconds, Ren Xiangtian suddenly did something that shocked everyone. Just like Li Tongtian, he raised his wrist and slammed it down heavily. A crisp sound, accompanied by the sound of a pill shattering, rang out in the private room. Why did Ren Xiangtian break the true martial pill? Could it be that what he refined wasn't a supreme grade pill, but a supreme grade pill? It is obviously a transcendent grade, true martial Dan. As a 4th grade alchemist, how could I not be able to distinguish between a transcendent grade Dan and a supreme grade Dan? But why did Ren Xiangtian smash the pill? I don't know about that. Maybe he wasn't satisfied with it. Are you kidding me? Who wouldn't be satisfied with a transcendent grade, true martial Dan? Are you out of your mind? From the moment he raised the pill, Ren Xiangtian knew that he had lost today. Taking a deep breath, Ren Xiangtian said in a low voice, "Ning Yu, you are the winner in today's alchemy competition." Li Tongtian took a step forward and said, "Ning Yu, Li Tongtian, have never been convinced by anyone in my life. Today I'm convinced by you. I look forward to our next battle." Whoosh! The martial artists in the private room were not stupid. Hearing Li Tongtian and Ren Xiangtian's words, even a fool could tell that Ning Yu had won. Not only did he win, but he had also won the respect of 2 alchemy geniuses. This was a rare thing. One had to know that Ren Xiangtian was a rare talent in the alchemy union and was known as the favorite to win the competition. Who would have thought that he would lose to Ning Yu? As for Li Tongtian, judging from the alchemy skills he had displayed, he was no weaker than Ren Xiangtian. The fact that two geniuses were convinced by Ningyu was enough to prove that Ningyu had the ability to do so. As for Rin Xiangtian and Li Tongtian's acknowledgement, Ningyu did not take it to heart. What he was concerned about was what Li Tongtian had promised him in the beginning. Li Tongtian, can you tell me where the mysterious forces from Snow Domain Pavilion are from? Ningyu's mouth was slightly agape as he spoke to Li Tongtian telepathically. Such an important matter could not be heard by anyone else. I can tell you that they are from him. Li Tongtian was not someone who would go back on his words. However, just as he was about to tell Ningyu, he raised an eyebrow and looked towards the entrance of the second Yuan room. There, two figures slowly appeared. Swoosh! Apart from Li Tongtian. The rest of the martial artists in the room became respectful when they saw the figure at the front. Father! The eldest prince and the rest hurried over and exclaimed in surprise, "Why didn't you tell us in advance that you were coming? It would have been better for me." The middle-aged man at the front waved his hand, gesturing for the eldest prince and the rest to keep quiet. Then, the middle-aged man walked towards Ningyu, one step at a time. Not long after, the middle-aged man stood in front of Ningyu and looked at Ningyu from head to toe. Cultivation is blurry, soul power is blurry. As the middle-aged man was looking at Ningyu, Ningyu was also looking at him. Ningyu was surprised to find that the middle-aged man seemed to be wrapped in a layer of white fog. Whether it was his soul power or his cultivation, it was difficult for Ningyu to detect him. There were two possibilities for this situation. Firstly, the middle-aged man's soul power and cultivation were very strong. They were so strong that it was terrifying. Secondly, the middle-aged man had a technique to hide his aura and soul power. This caused Zhou Donghuang to be unable to detect his cultivation and the strength of his soul power. No matter which possibility it was enough to show how powerful the middle-aged man was. Ningyu, I said before that as long as you can defeat Li Tongtian and the rest, I will let you see the illusionist who set up the illusion in Yuan Room 3. The middle-aged man was the first to break the silence. He said calmly, "Fu Guosheng, come out. Let Ningyu have a taste of your illusion." Sha. Actually, when the middle-aged man entered the room, Ningyu had already noticed the skinny man behind him. Hearing the middle-aged man's words, the skinny man did not hesitate at all. He walked directly in front of Ningyu and stood in front of Ningyu. Ningyu's eyes widened slightly as he looked at the skinny man. This glance caused Ningyu's heart to skip a beat. He felt that everything in front of him had changed. At this moment, he was at the edge of a cliff. If he took another step back, he would fall off the cliff. It really is a high-level illusion. After a short moment of shock, Ningyu's expression was emotionless as he said calmly, "Buzz, buzz." Just as Ningyu finished his sentence, the space in front of him rippled. Then a martial artist slowly appeared in front of him. This illusion of mine has the ability to confuse one's mind. Chapter 460. Breaking the illusion. An illusion is an illusion after all. As long as I guard my mind, I won't be affected. Looking at Fu Guosheng, who was not far away, Ningyu said in a deep voice, "Although the illusion you set up is a high-level illusion, it doesn't affect me at all." "Is that so?" Fu Guosheng raised his eyebrows and his body became illusory. Soon, Fu Guosheng completely disappeared from Ningyu's sight. Roar! In the next moment, a loud roar was heard. Then, Ningyu saw a huge tiger appear at the place where Fu Guosheng disappeared. "Ningyu, I want to see if you will be affected by the illusion." The tiger opened its mouth and roared at the sky. Then it let out Fu Guosheng's voice. Swoosh! After the roar, the tiger stomped on the ground and charged at Ningyu at an astonishing speed. Rustle! The tiger was extremely fast. Wherever it passed, the wind whistled and rustled. Transforming into a tiger, Ningyu's eyes revealed a grave expression when he saw the tiger constantly charging at him. although he knew that the tiger was transformed by Fu Guosheng. The realism of the tiger was completely beyond his expectations. Solitaire. Ningyu narrowed his eyes, and the soul-severing sword appeared in his hand. With a thrust of the sword, a shocking sword wave formed and slashed at the tiger's body. Chi! Chi! Solitaire was very powerful. The moment it came into contact with the tiger, it cut the tiger into two. Swoosh! However, before Ningyu could be excited, he saw the tiger merge into one and charge at him again. Damn it! Cursing, Ningyu did not dare to be slow. He quickly gathered his primordial chi on his fist and met the tiger head-on. Puff! This time, the tiger was pushed back several feet. On the other hand, Ningyu took a small step back. Even so, Ningyu broke into a cold sweat for himself. If he took another small step back, he would fall off the cliff. The illusions set up by high-ranked illusionists were extremely terrifying. The injuries sustained within the illusions would be brought out of the illusions. One could imagine that once Ningyu fell off the cliff, even if he didn't die, he would be severely injured. Ningyu, what do you think of my illusion? After gaining the upper hand, Fu Guosheng did not continue to attack. Instead, he appeared in front of Ningyu and said with a smile, "In front of my illusion, why did you not guard your mind? Looks like I've underestimated you. You're not only an advanced illusionist, but you're also just a step away from advancing to a human-level illusionist." Ningyu's face was extremely cold as he said in a deep voice, "The ranks of illusionists were extremely strict. Every level of difference in rank would result in a world of difference in the quality of the illusions created. Below the advanced illusionist were the beginner illusionist and the intermediate illusionist. As for above the advanced illusionist, it was the human-level illusionist, earth-level illusionist, as well as the even higher heaven-level illusionist. In his previous life, the illusionist with a level 9 soul force strength that Ningyu encountered was precisely a heaven-level illusionist. And Fu Guosheng's soul force strength was peak level 6, just a step away from advancing to level 7, which was to advance to become a human-level illusionist. You even know about a human-level illusionist. Indeed, not simple. At this moment, Fu Guosheng finally started to take Ningyu seriously. After all, martial artists who knew about human-level illusionists were few and far between. Generally speaking, in the understanding of many martial artists, illusionists were only divided into beginner, intermediate, and advanced ranks. The higher ranks of illusionists, they had never even heard of them before. Ningyu, how about we make a bet? Suddenly, Fu Guosheng seemed to have heard something. His brows raised, and he said to Ningyu, "If you win, not only can I release you out of the illusions, I can even release Lu Wei and the rest from the illusions. On the other hand..." Speaking up to here, Fu Guosheng paused slightly, then continued, "If you lose, you have to submit to me unconditionally." "Submit to you?" Ningyu said with a frown. "That's right. If you lose, you have to submit to me." Fu Guosheng nodded and said, "If possible, as a constraint, I hope that you will swear a heavenly Tao oath." "You think that I will definitely lose," Ningyu said coolly. From Fu Guosheng's expression and attitude, Ningyu could clearly feel that he thought that he could not win. Since that was the case, he could make this bet with Fu Guosheng. "It's not what I think." Fu Guosheng pursed his lips and said with a faint smile, "But you will definitely fall." "Enough nonsense. You and I each swear a heavenly Tao oath." Ningyu waved his hand and interrupted Fu Guosheng's words. His words being interrupted by Ningyu, Fu Guosheng revealed an unhappy look, but he did not get angry. Instead, he swore a heavenly Tao oath in front of Ningyu. Since Fu Guosheng already swore a heavenly Tao oath, Ningyu was not willing to fall behind either, and directly swore a heavenly Tao oath. "Ningyu, you have 15 minutes to break the illusion. I wish you good luck." When Fu Guosheng's voice faded, his body became illusory again and gradually fused together with the air. Ningyu sucked in a deep breath. The soul force in his body poured out in full force and began to probe carefully, hoping to find a way to break the illusion. Swish! When Ningyu attempted to break the illusion, Fu Guoxing's eyes suddenly snapped open and said to the middle-aged man respectfully, "Your Majesty, Ningyu has already been trapped in the illusion by me. How long do you give him?" The middle-aged man said coolly, 15 minutes, Fu Guoxing hurriedly said. 15 minutes, huh? The middle-aged man's brows locked tightly and fell into contemplation. In his opinion, with the strength of Ningyu's soul force, it would be very difficult to break the illusion in 15 minutes. Thinking of this, the middle-aged man turned around and walked towards Fengzi. After a while, the middle-aged man arrived in front of Fengzi and said, "You're from the Feng clan of the Lanqing country?" The middle-aged man's tone was unquestionable, giving Fengzi a deep pressure, causing him to have no choice but to answer honestly, "Yes, I'm from the Feng clan of the Lanqing country." "What is the cultivation of your clan's ancestor?" The middle-aged man asked again. "I'm not sure about the specific cultivation, but 3 years ago, the ancestor's cultivation had already reached a level." Fengzi opened his mouth and said in a low voice. However, when he mentioned the ancestor's specific cultivation, the 3 words suddenly became very vague, and the surrounding warriors did not hear it. His cultivation was already so high 3 years ago. From this, it seems that the Feng clan's ancestors' cultivation must be even more terrifying now. The others did not hear Fengzi's words because the middle-aged man had done something to it. However, he heard it clearly. "One more question. Tell me everything you know about Ningyu." After thinking for a while, the middle-aged man continued, "I'm not very clear about the specifics. I only know that Ningyu is very strong, an ordinary yin-yang realm." Fengzi seemed to be controlled as he wanted to tell the middle-aged man everything he knew. Crack! Chapter 461. One day and one night, crack, crack. A cracking sound rang out, followed closely by 2 more cracking sounds. Hearing these 2 cracking sounds, Fengzi's body trembled once more. Then he completely woke up. What happened just now? After waking up, Fengzi's eyes revealed a confused look. He looked left and right and said doubtfully, "Why do I feel like I'm being controlled by someone else?" Pucci! Just at this moment, the sound of blood spurting out mixed with some exclamations resounded in the room. Fu Guoxing! The martial artist who spurted out blood was none other than Fu Guoxing. "Ningyu, you actually broke my illusion?" Fu Guoxing's eyes widened, his face filled with stupefaction. He never thought that Ningyu would be able to break the illusion he set up in such a short time. Even a yin-yang realm martial artist would not dare to say that they could come out of the illusion so quickly, let alone Ningyu, whose cultivation was only at the late stage of the true martial realm. For Ningyu to be able to do this, it was enough to show that Ningyu's strength was extremely terrifying. I said before, as long as you guard your mind, you won't be affected. After coming out of the illusion, Ningyu glanced at Fu Guoxing, then came to Fengzi's side. Placing his palm on Fengzi's shoulder, Ningyu quietly separated a wisp of soul force and entered Fengzi's body. No wonder your mind was affected, so someone left a wisp of soul force in your body. As the soul force entered Fengzi's body, Ningyu's expression turned solemn. Needless to say, the soul force in Fengzi's body was definitely left behind by the middle-aged man, who was the current emperor. As for what the emperor's intentions were, it was obvious that he definitely wanted to know the secrets regarding him. Break for me. Suddenly, Ningyu separated another wisp of soul force and entered Fengzi's body. Together with the first wisp of soul force, it started a great battle with the soul force left behind by the emperor in Fengzi's body. Crack! As the soul force left behind by the emperor was relatively weak, it was not long before it was surrounded and turned into nothingness. The dissipation of this soul force did not affect the emperor. Instead, it made him look up to Ningyu. To be able to annihilate his soul force, it could be seen that Ningyu's soul force was still very strong. Your Majesty, I wonder if it's possible to have Fu Guosheng remove the illusion in the third Yuan room and release Lu Wei and the others. Cupping his hands together, Ningyu said, Lu Wei's cultivation is only at the Xiantian realm. It's almost impossible for her to escape from the illusion set up by a high-level illusionist. No problem. Fu Guosheng, remove the illusion in room 3 and let the cultivators inside out. The emperor smiled and waved his hand at Fu Guosheng behind him. Remember, don't hurt anyone. Understood? Fu Guosheng glared fiercely at Ningyu, then turned around and left. The emperor's generous action caused Ningyu to frown slightly. He felt that it was somewhat inconceivable. Logically speaking, the emperor had paid such a huge price to set up the illusion. There was no reason for it to be removed so easily. Originally, Ningyu thought that he would have to bargain with the emperor. Who would have thought that the emperor would be so magnanimous? Just now, Ningyu defeated Li Tongtian and Ren Xiangtian in the alchemy assessment. Who else wants to compete with Ningyu in alchemy? After Fu Guosheng left, the emperor paced back and forth in the room, sweeping his gaze across the cultivators. Then he said in a deep voice, If there's no one else, I hereby announce that Ningyu is the final winner of the alchemy assessment. Not long ago, Ningyu and Li Tongtian had competed in alchemy. Many cultivators in the room had witnessed it. Among them, the highest-ranked cultivator was only a 4th-grade alchemist. They might not even be able to refine a supreme-grade, true martial pill, let alone a supreme-grade, true martial pill. Compete with Ningyu? They would lose terribly. They might even lose their underwear. All right, I hereby announce that the winner of the alchemy assessment is Ningyu. He can cultivate in the ice manner for a day and a night unconditionally. Whoosh! As soon as the emperor finished speaking, the spacious number 2 Yuan private room instantly fell silent. Unconditionally entering the ice manner to cultivate for a day and a night. This treatment was enviable. In the alchemy assessment, Ningyu is the final winner. Now, let's begin the martial assessment. Obviously, the emperor was very satisfied with the reactions of the warriors. He nodded and continued, The martial arts test is very simple. 2 people will fight each other. The one who can last until the end will become the second warrior to enter the ice mansion unconditionally. The emperor's words ignited the flames in the hearts of the cultivators. Although they could not defeat Ningyu in the alchemy assessment, they still had a chance in the martial assessment. Oh, right. Suddenly, the emperor seemed to think of something and continued. Although Ningyu won in the alchemy assessment, he can still participate in the martial assessment. If he can last until the end of the martial assessment, he can stay in the ice manor for 2 days and 2 nights. The flames in the hearts of the cultivators had been ignited, but the emperor's words were like a bucket of cold water poured on their hearts, directly extinguishing the flames in their hearts. Not only was Ningyu skilled in alchemy, but his martial strength was also exceptionally strong. Among the cultivators invited by the emperor, except for Ningyu, who else could take a blow from Elder Tan, who was in the early stage of Yin-Yang realm and not be at a disadvantage? Ningyu frowned. He didn't know what the emperor wanted. From the beginning until now, the emperor seemed to be very eager to let him enter the ice manor to cultivate. Why? Shaking his head, Ningyu put these thoughts aside for now. The first martial assessment, Feng Zi versus Zhou Jianming. The emperor did not ask for Ningyu's opinion and directly said, If the winner is not decided within 10 minutes, then the one with the lower cultivation wins. Swoosh! As the emperor's voice fell, Zhou Jianming took a step forward and said in a deep voice, I choose to admit defeat. At the entrance of Tianyuan restaurant, Zhou Jianming had already fought with Feng Zi. At that time, Feng Zi's every attack was aimed at his right hand, causing him to be defeated not long after. Zhou Jiaming was not a fool. Feng Zi could beat him last time, so he should be able to beat him this time. Therefore, he chose to admit defeat. He understood the principle of where there's life, there's hope. If he forcefully fought and his right hand was crippled, it would not be worth it. Zhou Jianming admits defeat. Next, Feng Zi versus Ningyu. Almost at the same time that Zhou Jianming admitted defeat, the emperor announced the candidates for the second battle. Ningyu versus Feng Zi. Ningyu was in the late stage of the true martial realm, while Feng Zi was in the early stage of the primal core realm. This was a battle that seemed to have no suspense, but everyone knew that the final winner would definitely be Ningyu. I choose to admit defeat. The result was not out of everyone's expectations. Feng Zi directly chose to admit defeat without any fancy moves. Zhou Jiaming's cultivation was far higher than Feng Zi's, but he admitted defeat. Feng Zi's cultivation was far higher than Ningyu's, but he also admitted defeat to Ningyu. Chapter 462. Fighting Ouyang Hai. Since Zhou Jiaming and Feng Zi have chosen to admit defeat, then the next match will be between Ningyu and... The emperor slightly frowned, his eyes slowly swept across the crowd, and finally stopped at the third prince, Ouyang Hai, and said, "Higher fight." Hearing that the next match was between him and Ningyu, the third prince, Ouyang Hai's complexion changed dramatically. Although he had always wanted to have a real fight with Ningyu, he was very clear about the gap between him and Ningyu. Even if Ningyu only used 50% of his strength, he was still not his opponent. Moreover, he and Ningyu were already mortal enemies. If he fought with Ningyu at this time, wouldn't he be seeking death? It was conceivable that Ningyu would not be lenient. In my opinion, the third prince will definitely admit defeat. I also think so. The third prince is only at the peak of the true martial realm. How could he be Ningyu's opponent? It's hard to say, after all. The third prince represents the royal family. If he admitted defeat like this, wouldn't he be a disgrace to the royal family? Yeah, if I were the third prince, I would not admit defeat no matter what. Originally, Ouyang Hai was ready to admit defeat, but after hearing the surrounding martial artist discussion, he swallowed his words. These martial artists were too much. They actually said he represented the royal family. If that was the case, if he admitted defeat again, it would really be a disgrace to the royal family, to the emperor. Ouyang Hai did not care about losing his own face, but he could not afford to lose the royal family and the emperor's face. Therefore, he clenched his teeth and fiercely said, "Ningyu, others may be afraid of you, but I am not. What does it have to do with me, whether you are afraid of me or not?" Ningyu shrugged and lightly said, "If you want to fight, hurry up. I don't have time to waste with you here. You are going too far." Ouyang Hai did not expect Ningyu to look down on him so much. For a moment, he was filled with hatred and rushed towards Ningyu. Whoosh! In order to deal a fatal blow to Ningyu, Ouyang Hai had practically used all his strength. His speed had also reached the limit of what he could achieve at this stage. Maybe Ouyang Hai can really exchange a few moves with Ningyu. It is possible. No matter what, Ouyang Hai is also a martial artist at the peak of the true martial realm. His strength cannot be underestimated. That's right, Ouyang Hai is a member of the royal family. He should have. What? When everyone saw Ouyang Hai rushing towards Ningyu, they began to discuss among themselves. However, before the last cultivator could finish his words, his eyes were filled with shock. Bang! With a muffled sound, Ouyang Hai's body fell backward like a kite with a broken string. Xiao! Just as Ouyang Hai was about to crash into the wall, Old Tan leaped up and caught him firmly. "Ningyu, you!" After being punched in the chest by Ningyu, Ouyang Hai felt that he had lost all face and shouted angrily, "You are not skilled enough and do not know how to endure. It is easy for you to be blinded by hatred." The emperor directly interrupted Ouyang Hai and said coldly, "Looks like I shouldn't have let you stay in the capital for so long. Go and prepare. We will leave for Shishan City in a few days. Yes. If he was interrupted by someone else, Ouyang Hai might not be happy. However, the one who interrupted him was the current emperor, so he did not have any temper. Glaring fiercely at Ningyu, Ouyang Hai turned around and left the number 2 yuan room. Ningyu, can you still do it? After Ouyang Hai left, the emperor asked Ningyu. Why not? I can do it at any time. Ningyu said in a deep voice. That's fine. The next match is between Ningyu and Li Nan. The emperor said again. I choose to admit defeat. Li Nan was very smart and chose to admit defeat. His cultivation was only at the middle stage of the primal core stage. Although he was a few levels higher than Ningyu, his strength was also a few levels lower than Ningyu's. It could be said that if Ningyu attacked with all his strength, it would be difficult for him to resist even one move. In this world, people who knew their limits usually did not end up too badly. Li Nan admits defeat. The next match is between Ningyu and Rin Xiangtian. Almost at the same time when Li Nan admitted defeat, the emperor announced the candidates for the next match. Ningyu against Rin Xiangtian. It's finally my turn. Ren Xiangtian murmured with a fervent look in his eyes. Ever since he lost to Ningyu in alchemy, Ren Xiangtian had always wanted to compete with Ningyu in martial arts. Now that the opportunity had come, it was inevitable that he was a little excited. Ren Xiangtian is a peerless genius of the Alchemy Union. This battle is going to be interesting. Yes, Ren Xiangtian might be able to compete with Ningyu. It will probably be a little difficult. Ren Xiangtian's alchemy skills are very high, but in terms of martial art strength, he might not be able to beat Ningyu. The surrounding martial artists were talking about it again. However, the general consensus was that Ren Xiangtian was very likely to be no match for Ningyu. Ningyu, you don't have to hold back. I want to see your true strength. Ren Xiangtian took a deep breath and said, I admire you for beating me in alchemy. If you can beat me in martial arts as well, I, Ren Xiangtian, will completely admire you. Don't worry, I won't hold back against an opponent worthy of respect, Ningyu said in a low voice. Good, you're really straightforward. With a cold look in his eyes, Ren Xiangtian immediately rushed towards Ningyu at an extremely fast speed. Chi-chi. Ren Xiangtian's speed was so fast that there was even a hissing sound from the friction with the air. He's finally revealed his cultivation level. Peak primal core, feeling the powerful aura exuding from Ren Xiangtian. Ningyu's eyes revealed a serious look. Ren Xiangtian was different from Zhou Jianming. Although they were both peak primal core martial artists, Ren Xiangtian was more than a level stronger than Zhou Jianming. After all, Ren Xiangtian's soul power was much stronger than Zhou Jianming's. Excluding soul power, Zhou Jianming could still compete with Ren Xiangtian, but with soul power, he was definitely no match for Ren Xiangtian. Ningyu, eat my fist, immovable king fist. Just as Ningyu was slightly stunned, Ren Xiangtian had already arrived in front of Ningyu. His fist contained a violent wave of yuan qi as it slammed into Ningyu's chest. Underworld dominating palm. In the face of such a fierce punch from Ren Xiangtian, Ningyu did not dare to be careless. He immediately gathered the yuan qi in his sea of consciousness on his palm and pushed it out, colliding with Ren Xiangtian's fist. Bang! The fist and the palm collided, accompanied by a muffled sound, and then the two figures simultaneously retreated. Ren Xiangtian retreated to the edge of the room before he stabilized himself. However, a serious look appeared on his face. On the other hand, Ningyu only retreated 3 steps before he stabilized himself. At the same time, his expression did not change, as if he was not affected at all. The first exchange between the two sides was obvious. Chapter 463. Requesting a duel. No, if I'm not wrong, this is merely 50% of Ningyu's strength. Elder Tan had exchanged blows with Ningyu not long ago, so he had a very good understanding of Ning Yu's strength. Although Ning Yu had gained the upper hand in the first exchange with Ren Xiangtian, Elder Tan was very clear that Ning Yu had only used 50% of his strength at most. In that case, isn't Ren Xiangtian bound to lose? The emperor's expression was a little ugly as he asked in a low voice. In this private room, he was most optimistic about the two martial artists who could contend with Ning Yu. One was Ren Xiangtian, and the other was Li Tongtian. Relatively speaking, Li Tongtian's strength was slightly stronger than Ren Xiangtian, but it wasn't to the extent of defying the heavens. If Ren Xiangtian was easily defeated by Ning Yu, then it would be very difficult for Li Tongtian to defeat Ning Yu. It's hard to say. As a peerless genius of the Alchemy Union, it's impossible for Ren Xiangtian to not have a trump card. Elder Tan shook his head and said, if Ning Yu wants to defeat Ren Xiangtian, he has to use at least 80% of his strength. Otherwise, it's impossible for him to defeat Ren Xiangtian. Bang! Just as Elder Tan and the Emperor were conversing, Ning Yu and Ren Xiangtian clashed once again. When the second fist collided, Ning Yu and Ren Xiangtian each took a few steps back before they could stabilize themselves. Only this time, Ning Yu took 3 steps back, while Ren Xiangtian only took 5 steps back. Ha ha ha, it's been a long time since I've fought to my heart's content. Ning Yu, take another punch from me. After the 2 punches, Ren Xiangtian rose from the ground and charged at Ning Yu while laughing heartily. It's getting more and more powerful. Looking at Ren Xiangtian, who was approaching him, and the violent yuan qi contained in Ren Xiangtian's fists, Ning Yu revealed a solemn expression. The power of Ren Xiangtian's fists was getting stronger and stronger. He only used 30% of his strength to block the first punch. He used 40% of his strength to block the second punch. If he didn't use 50% of his strength for this third punch, it would be hard to block it. Dark Tyrant Palm. In the next moment, Ning Yu's eyes turned cold. He quickly waved his palm and launched another palm attack. Bang! Another muffled bang resounded, and then both Ning Yu and Ren Xiangtian took a few steps back. Look, Ning Yu and Ren Xiangtian fought to a draw. Ren Xiangtian seems to be getting stronger. Of course, you might not know this, but Ren Xiangtian used a heaven-ranked martial technique, the immovable Will King Fist. What's so special about the immovable Will King Fist? A martial artist asked. Let me explain. Hearing the discussions of the crowd, the first prince smiled and said, Immovable King Fist, a superior grade heaven-ranked martial technique. There are a total of 10 punches. The most special thing about the immovable King Fist is that each punch is stronger than the last. The power of the last punch can even break space for a short period of time. Whoosh! As the first prince finished speaking, the surrounding martial artists were in an uproar. Breaking space could only be done by a yin-yang realm martial artist or some extremely abnormal, peak primal core martial artist. The immovable Will King Fist was so powerful. It could break space for a short period of time. Humph! Although the immovable Will King Fist is powerful, Ren Xiangtian can only perform up to 5 punches at most. Feng Zi snorted and said, the 5th punch of the immovable Will King Fist is still far from enough to defeat Ning Yu. Hearing Feng Zi's words, the first prince was not angry. Instead, he raised his eyebrows and smiled evilly. Why don't we make a bet? Bet on what? Feng Zi said coldly. Simple. Bet on whether Ren Xiangtian can perform. The corner of Feng Zi's mouth curled up. Just as he was about to say what the bet was, a look of extreme shock appeared on his face. Bang! On the other side of the room, Ning Yu raised his speed to the limit and sidestepped Ren Xiangtian's 4th punch. Then, Ning Yu threw a punch that landed squarely on Ren Xiangtian's back. Ning Yu used 60% of his strength in this punch, and Ren Xiangtian's attention was on the immovable Will King Fist, so he was knocked back several feet by Ning Yu and hit the wall of the room. Uft! Rin Xiangtian spat out a mouthful of fresh blood, his face slightly pale. He lost. Rin Xiangtian also lost to Ningyu. Ren Xiangtian lost to Ningyu. Then who else here is a match for Ningyu? I'm afraid only Li Tongtian can compete with him. Rin Xiangtian's defeat caused an uproar in the second Yuan room. Based on the performance of Ningyu, it was very likely that he would also come out on top in the martial arts assessment. In that case, Ningyu would be able to stay in the ice mansion for 2 days and 2 nights. Your Highness, what did you want to bet with me? I didn't hear you clearly just now. Can you say it again? At this moment, Feng Zi came in front of the eldest prince and said with a smile, You. The eldest prince's face was livid with anger, but at the same time he was glad that he didn't say the contents of the bet. Otherwise, wouldn't he be so embarrassed? He didn't expect Ningyu to defeat Ren Xiangtian so quickly, and the victory was so sudden. Ningyu, I'm completely convinced this time. Ren Xiangtian stood up from the ground, wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and said to Ningyu. However, he quickly changed the topic and said in a low voice, But don't let your guard down. I'm looking forward to fighting with you in the alchemy competition. I'm afraid it won't be so easy for you to defeat me then. I'll be waiting for you, Ningyu said solemnly. Although Ningyu had defeated Ren Xiangtian in both martial arts and alchemy, he knew very well that Ren Xiangtian was not a simple person. The strength of a 5th-grade soul power and the martial arts of a peak primal core practitioner. There were still a few days before the alchemy competition. If Ren Xiangtian improved by then, it would be very difficult for him to defeat Ren Xiangtian. Goodbye. Ren Xiangtian cupped his fists at Ningyu, then bid farewell to the emperor and left the private room without looking back. Ren Xiangtian's departure caused the other martial artists in the private room to become serious. I admit defeat. Before long, an early primal core martial artist admitted defeat and left the private room. I admit defeat too. I give up. I give up. After the first martial artist admitted defeat, it seemed to cause a chain reaction. Following that, most of the martial artists in the private room who hadn't fought with Ningyu chose to admit defeat. Of course, there were still 3 who didn't admit defeat. One was the first prince, another was Li Tongtian. The last was the 3rd prince, Ouyang Yuan. Father, I request to fight in the next match. Suddenly, the first prince stepped forward and knelt on one knee in front of the emperor. He said in a low voice, I want to have a martial arts duel with Ningyu. Huh. The first prince's sudden action caused the emperor to frown slightly in surprise. But very quickly he recovered and was happy for the first prince's quick wit. Ningyu was at his weakest now, and the first prince's request to have a duel with Ningyu was undoubtedly the best opportunity. Chapter 464. 3 Moves Whoosh. The first prince's unreasonable request instantly caused an uproar in the room. How could there be such a shameless person in this world? Ningyu had just gone through a great battle, so he was definitely not in his peak condition. The first prince's request to spar with Ningyu was obviously an opportunistic move. Whoosh! The martial artists in the room once again shifted their gaze to the emperor, trying to see if he would agree to the first prince's request. Ningyu, do you want to take a break? The emperor did not answer the first prince immediately, but looked at Ningyu instead. As the emperor of the Great Xia Kingdom, Ouyang was very smart. He knew that if he agreed to the first prince's request now, it would undoubtedly leave a bad impression in the hearts of the genius martial artists. Although he did not really care about the bad impression, it was better not to. There's no need for that. Since the first prince is so interested, I'll spar with him. How could Ningyu not know the emperor's intention? As the saying went, the talented were bold. Although he had consumed a lot of energy when he fought with Ren Xiangtian, it was still relatively easy for him to fight with the first prince. Ha ha ha! Heroes indeed come from the young. Let's not waste any more time. Hurry up and fight. I'll be the judge. After receiving the confirmation from Ningyu, Ouyangba laughed out loud and said, "Don't overdo it. Remember not to hurt your opponent." Yes, the first prince, Ouyangming, cupped his fists, then turned to Ningyu and said, "You've consumed a lot of energy, so I'll let you have 3 moves first." Are you sure you want to let me have 3 moves first? Ningyu hesitated as if he did not hear the first prince's words. "Cut the crap. I've made a promise." Oh no. Ouyangming was obviously a little impatient. However, before he could finish his words, his eyes widened and he quickly retreated. He saw Ningyu rising from the ground and appearing in front of him at a shocking speed. Damn it! Ouyangming cursed and raised his right hand, which collided with Ningyu's fist. Bang! Next, a clear sound was heard. Then Ouyangming's body fell backward like a kite with a broken string. Xiao! Elder Tan reacted quickly and caught Ouyangming just as his back was about to hit the wall. "Ningyu, you cheated." Once he stabilized himself, he pushed Elder Tan away and pointed at Ningyu. "How dare you sneak an attack on me? Sai, this kind of consensual thing, how can it be considered a sneak attack? At most, it can only be said that you are not skilled enough." Ningyu waved his hand and said indifferently, "You said that you would give me 3 moves. This is only the first move. There are still 2 more moves. Are you ready?" Ouyangming's face turned green when he heard what Ningyu said, and he wanted so badly to kill Ningyu right away. However, he knew that he couldn't do that. After all, he had promised to take 3 hits from Ningyu, but now he had only taken 1. Come on, there are still 2 more moves. Ouyangming took a deep breath and calmed down. Ouyangming's calmness was a little scary, and it even made Ningyu feel a little dazed. Did Ouyangming take the wrong medicine? Otherwise, how could he be so calm? Suddenly, Ningyu's heart trembled, and his face was gloomy. This was because Ningyu discovered a special aura on the first prince, and this aura seemed to be somewhat similar to Elder Tan's. If it wasn't for Ningyu's strong soul perception, he definitely wouldn't have discovered this clue. Eat my second punch. Even though he had discovered something unusual on the first prince, Ningyu couldn't expose it. The only thing he could do now was to defeat the first prince within 3 moves. Otherwise, there was a high possibility of unforeseen events. Come at me. Facing Ningyu's second punch, the first prince did not retreat, but advanced instead. He took a step forward, and his fist collided with Ningyu's fist. Bam! This time, the first prince did not retreat even half a step. Instead, it was Ningyu who took a few steps back before he could stabilize himself. What's going on? How could Ningyu be at a disadvantage in the second punch? Seeing that Ningyu was at a disadvantage, Feng Zi's expression changed drastically, and he revealed a look of disbelief. He was well aware of the first prince's strength. The first prince was only slightly stronger than him, and even if Feng Zi used his trump card, the outcome of the battle was still unknown. It could be said that if Ningyu wanted to defeat the first prince, it would be as easy as blowing off dust. Why was Ningyu at a disadvantage in the second exchange? The first prince's strength seems to have increased by quite a bit in an instant. At the side, Li Tongtian frowned, and he vaguely felt that something was wrong. Li Tongtian's soul perception was not weak, and it was even on par with Ningyu's. If Ningyu could sense the difference in the first prince, Li Tongtian would naturally be able to as well. However, Li Tongtian was not very familiar with the unique aura on Old Tan. He only knew that the first prince's strength had increased, but he did not know that it was due to Old Tan's help. Impossible! Big Brother can't possibly be this strong. The sixth prince, Ouyang could not help but shake his head and exclaim, as he was fighting for the position of crown prince. Ouyang was very familiar with the first prince's strength. The first prince was much stronger than him, but compared to Ningyu, the difference was like heaven and earth. Not to mention one first prince. Even if there were 5 or 10 of them, they would not be a match for Ningyu. Your Majesty, should we severely injure Ningyu, or, on the other side, Old Tan stretched out his palm and drew a line across his neck. Don't act rashly. What you need to do is to let your soul power enter Ningyu's body and go into hibernation. I need to know what he's going to do next. Ouyangba interrupted Old Tan and said in a deep voice, Perhaps I can find the key to break that formation from Ningyu. Ouyangba mumbled, Ningyu, there's still one last move. Hurry up and don't waste my time. After gaining the upper hand in one move, the first prince curled his lips into a sinister smile. He hooked his pinky finger at Ningyu and said sinisterly, After the third move, I'll have to do it myself. As you wish. Ningyu's eyes turned cold, and he immediately leaped. At the same time his fist, which contained extremely violent primordial chi, appeared in front of the first prince in the blink of an eye. The iron-like fist gradually enlarged in the first prince's eyes. This punch can't hurt me. Oh, Yangming did not pay much attention to the fist that was slowly expanding in his pupils. After a faint smile, he took a step forward and stuck out his chest, intending to resist Ningyu's punch. You're courting death. Don't blame me. Ningyu turned to look at Old Tan. Then the primordial chi in his sea of consciousness gushed out again and gathered on his fist. Oh no. First prince, retreat quickly. On the other side, Old Tan's face changed when he saw Ningyu's gaze and the violent primordial chi on Ningyu's fist. He quickly shouted in his heart, This punch is too powerful. It'll be difficult for you to block it. Oh no. Upon hearing Old Tan's words, the first prince turned around slightly with a confused look on his face. Chapter 465. Defeat Bang. Following that, a muffled sound was heard as Ouyangming fell backward. This time, Ouyangming was not so lucky. When he was repelled, Elder Tan seemed to have suffered a serious injury as well, so he did not go forward to receive him. Bang! Without Elder Tan's help, Ouyangming directly had intimate contact with the private room's wall. Puchi! Ouyangming spat out a mouthful of blood, and his aura became rather weak, and he was extremely pale. First prince, 3 moves have passed. After defeating Ouyangming, Ningyu remarked, I didn't waste your time. Puff! Ouyangming spat out another mouthful of blood when he heard Ningyu, and he trembled with rage. Ningyu, those 3 moves don't count. Let's do it again. Ouyangming stood up with difficulty and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. A loss is a loss. Go back and think about why you lost today. At that instant, Ouyangba said in a deep voice. Ouyangming's defeat had obviously exceeded Ouyangba's expectation. After all, Ouyangming was not fighting alone. He had Elder Tan, who was at the early stage of yin-yang state, behind him. If Ningyu could defeat Ouyangming, did that not mean that even Elder Tan was no match for him? Although he was extremely shocked in his heart. Since Ningyu had won the duel, it was inappropriate for Ouyangba to say anything. He could only say in a loud voice, Ningyu is the winner of this duel. Subsequently, Ouyangba swept his gaze across Ouyang and Li Tongtian. Up until now, the only martial artists in the room who had not fought with Ning, you were the 2 of them. Ouyang could basically be eliminated. If Ningyu wanted to defeat him, it would be effortless. Li Tongtian is very strong. Who knows? He might be able to defeat Ningyu now. Ouyangba's eyes darted around as he tried to come up with a countermeasure. He was trying to come up with a way for Ningyu to fight Li Tongtian. Father, I forfeit. Ouyang knew that he was no match for Ningyu, so he simply gave up. Originally, he had been worried that directly forfeiting would affect the fight for the position of Crown Prince. However, now that the first prince and the third prince had both been defeated, it would be wise for him to forfeit. Ningyu, I know you can continue to fight, but it would be unfair to you, so you should rest for an hour. You can fight Li Tongtian after that. After Ouyang gave up, Ba raised his eyebrows and said in a low voice, "Let me know if you have any requests. I'll try my best to fulfill them. I don't need to rest." As soon as Ba finished his words, Ningyu shook his head and said calmly, "You don't need to rest?" Ba frowned slightly, not knowing what Ningyu was up to. Could it be that Ningyu was so confident in himself? He could defeat Li Tongtian without resting. One had to know that Li Tongtian was extremely powerful. Even at his peak, Ningyu would have to go through a lot of trouble to defeat Li Tongtian. Now that Ningyu is not at his peak, defeating Li Tongtian would be even more difficult. "You think you can defeat me without resting? You're quite arrogant." Li Tongtian revealed a look of displeasure. Ningyu's words were obviously not giving him face, which made him very angry. Initially, he had planned to use only 80% of his strength to fight Ningyu. In his opinion, it would be difficult for Ningyu to recover to his peak within an hour. Even if he won against Ningyu, who was not at his peak, it would be an unfair victory. Now Li Tongtian had changed his mind. He wanted to use his full strength to let Ningyu know how powerful he was. "That's right, I don't need to rest." Ningyu nodded. Following that, Ningyu said something that shocked the crowd. "Because I give up." Whoosh! As soon as Ningyu finished speaking, almost all the martial artists in the spacious second Yuan booth, including Ba and Li Tongtian, were in disbelief. Give up? If this was said by someone else, it might not cause too much of a commotion. However, when it was said by Ningyu, it was a little unbelievable. Could it be that Ningyu was injured? Or did Ningyu know that he was no match for Li Tongtian? However, judging from Ningyu's performance, it did not look like he was injured, nor did it look like he was no match for Li Tongtian. However, why did Ningyu give up? A series of questions appeared in the minds of the crowd. Finally, Li Tongtian took a step forward and said, "Ningyu, what do you mean by this?" Li Tongtian was very angry. He felt that he had lost face by using such a method to win the final martial arts assessment, the sandpiper and the clam fight. Ningyu did not answer Li Tongtian directly. Instead, he came to his side with his back facing Ba and the rest. His mouth was slightly open. Lip reading. At this moment, Ningyu used lip reading to communicate with Li Tongtian. Ba was very strong, and even his soul power was extremely strong. If he were to use soul telepathy now, he might be discovered by Ba. Therefore, Ningyu decided to use lip reading. No matter how strong Ba was, without seeing Ningyu's mouth, it was hard for him to know what Ningyu was talking about. Li Tongtian was no fool. The moment Ningyu opened his mouth, he realized the severity of the problem. Taking a deep breath, Li Tongtian turned around and stood side by side with Ningyu. He said in a deep voice, "The fisherman reaps the benefits. When we go to the ice manor later, are you my friend or foe?" Ningyu asked. "Friend, not foe," Li Tongtian said. After getting a definite answer from Li Tongtian, Ningyu smiled and did not continue speaking. Ningyu had always felt that Li Tongtian was not simple. His martial arts skills were no weaker than his own. If they were to continue fighting, it was hard to tell who would win. Since he did not know if he could defeat Li Tongtian, it was better to have one more ally than one more enemy. Since Ningyu has given up, the final winner of the martial arts assessment is Li Tongtian. Ba's gaze lingered on Ningyu for a second before shifting to Li Tongtian and saying, "I've said it before, no matter the winner of the martial arts assessment or the winner of the alchemy assessment, they can enter the ice mansion unconditionally to cultivate for a day and a night. Now, I hereby announce that both Ningyu and Li Tongtian can enter the ice manor unconditionally to cultivate for a day and a night." Whoosh! Although they knew that the winners of both assessments could enjoy such a great treatment, the crowd was still shocked when Ba made the announcement. Cultivating for a day and a night in the ice manor, this treatment was truly heaven-defying. The rest of the cultivators can leave Tianyuan Tower. Ningyu and Li Tongtian, follow me to the ice manor. Ba waved his hand. Although it seemed like a casual statement, it was actually unquestionable. "Your Majesty, can you wait for a moment?" Ning Yu asked hesitantly. "Sure." Ouyang Ba was about to leave, but he stopped when he heard Ning Yu's words. "Thank you." After expressing his gratitude, Ning Yu came to Ouyang Yuan's side and said in a deep voice, "Sixth Prince, I'll leave Feng Zi and Lu Wei to you for the time being. I hope you can ensure their safety." "No problem. As long as I'm here, I guarantee nothing will happen to them." Chapter 466. In the palace in Ouyang Yuan's heart, Ningyu had entrusted Feng Zi and Lu Wei to him because he trusted him completely. Ningyu was so powerful. If he could tie Ningyu to him completely, Yang Yuan believed that he would have at least a 50% chance of becoming the crown prince. Yang Yuan secretly made up his mind to ensure the safety of Lu Wei and the rest, even if he had to use all his strength. "Thank you." Ning Yu cupped his fists and said, "After I leave Ice Mansion, I'll visit you personally to thank you." Then Ning Yu came to Feng Zi's side and said, "Feng Zi, you know what to do." "Understood." Feng Zi had always felt guilty about Lu Wei and the rest being trapped in the illusion. Now that there was a chance, he naturally would not miss it. "You have to be flexible in everything." Ning Yu gave Feng Zi a profound look, but didn't say anything else. "The two of you follow me." Seeing that Ning Yu was silent, Ouyang Ba said in a deep voice, "To Ice Mansion." As he spoke, Ouyang Ba moved and left the box. Ning Yu and Li Tongtian looked at each other and followed closely. "Let's go to the third Yuan box." After Ning Yu and the rest left the room, the sixth Prince Ouyang Yuan did not hesitate and immediately walked towards the third Yuan box. Ouyang Yuan did not want to miss this rare opportunity. As long as he could ensure the safety of Lu Wei and the rest until Ning Yu came out, then Ning Yu would owe him a favor. Knowing Ning Yu's character, he would definitely help him when he fought for the title of Crown Prince. Feng Zi already felt guilty towards Ning Yu, so he naturally followed behind Ouyang Yuan. Ning Yu had asked him to help take care of Lu Wei and the rest. In the end, he had come out of the illusion, but Lu Wei and the rest were trapped in the illusion. This time he had to ensure the safety of Lu Wei and the others no matter what. Sha! Ning Yu did not know what Ouyang Yuan and Feng Zi were thinking. At this moment, he was following behind Ouyang Ba, shuttling back and forth in the Imperial Palace. The Tianyuan Tower was not located in the Imperial Palace. Therefore, after leaving the Tianyuan Tower, Ning Yu, Ouyang Ba, and the others immediately rushed to the Imperial Palace. Not long after, they arrived at the palace. Although the Imperial Palace was relatively large, Ning Yu and the others were not slow. After walking for a quarter of an hour, they stopped in front of a luxurious palace. "Your Majesty, aren't we going to the Ice Mansion? Why did you bring us here?" Li Tongtian seemed to have been to the Ice Mansion before. Therefore, he asked curiously when Ouyang Ba stopped. It's getting late. In my opinion, you guys should rest here for the night. I'll send someone to pick you up tomorrow morning, and we'll head to the Ice Mansion together," Ouyang Ba said with a smile. "That's reasonable," Li Tongtian mumbled as he lifted his head to look at the darkening sky. "Have a good rest tonight. I'll ask these two guards to guard the main hall. You can call them if you need anything." Ouyang Ba pointed at the two guards at the entrance of the main hall. "Half-step Yin-Yang realm." Ning Yu followed Ouyang Ba's finger and looked at the entrance of the main hall. He wouldn't have known if he hadn't taken a look, but the moment he did, he was shocked. The two guards at the entrance of the main hall had a cultivation base of half-step Yin-Yang realm. Using half-step Yin-Yang realm martial artists to guard the entrance? The Imperial Palace was not that powerful. In other words, there must be a reason why Ouyang Ba was doing this. "Rest early. Someone will fetch you tomorrow morning." Ouyang Ba smiled at Ning Yu and the others before he left without looking back. "Li Tongtian, I think you've been to the Ice Mansion before." Looking at Ouyang Ba's back, Ning Yu turned around and asked in a deep voice, Is the ice mansion far from here? Let's talk inside. Li Tongtian did not answer Ning Yu's question immediately. Instead, he gave Ning Yu a look and walked into the main hall. Ning Yu understood and didn't stay in front of the hall. He also entered the hall. The main hall was luxuriously decorated, but Ning Yu and Li Tongtian did not have the time to admire it. They randomly picked a room and went in. Creak! After closing the door, Ning Yu and Li Tongtian unleashed their soul energy and carefully checked the room. A moment later, Ning Yu and Li Tongtian withdrew their soul energy at the same time. No problem. Almost at the same time, the two of them spoke. In fact, it was no wonder that Ning Yu and the others were being cautious. Ouyang Ba said they were going to the ice mansion, but he changed his mind and brought them to this luxurious palace. To be honest, there were plenty of places to receive guests in the palace, but this luxurious palace did not look like a place to receive guests. Therefore, it was never wrong for Ning Yu and the others to be cautious. Ning Yu, I've been to the ice mansion before, but that was a few years ago. After confirming that the room was safe, Li Tongtian said, to be precise, the ice mansion is very far away from this palace. What do you mean? Ning Yu raised his eyebrows and asked. We're on the west side of the palace, while the ice mansion is on the east side. Li Tongtian said in a deep voice, I'm not sure why the emperor brought us here. East and west, what the hell is the emperor up to? Ning Yu took a deep breath and his expression turned serious. There's always a way out. Ning Yu, I'm impressed by you. Oh no. Li Tongtian shrugged and was about to say something, but his eyes dimmed and he pushed Ning Yu away. Boom! In the next moment, a beam of cold light descended from the sky and hit the ground between Ning Yu and Li Tongtian. Crack! The beam of cold light was extremely powerful. The bluestone floor was instantly blasted into a huge hole. The hole was more than a meter deep. Such power was truly terrifying. Swoosh! However, before Ning Yu and Li Tongtian could exclaim in shock, they saw a figure descending from the sky above the room. This figure was covered in a black robe and his face could not be seen at all. Yin-yang stage. Middle stage. Feeling the powerful aura emanating from the black-robed warrior, Ning Yu's heart sank. Ning Yu was well aware of his strength. If he used all his trump cards, he could go up against a peak early Yin-yang realm warrior. However, against a mid-Yin-yang realm warrior, especially one as powerful as the black-robed warrior before him, there was almost no chance of victory. The black-robed warrior before him was very strong. At the very least, he was much stronger than Tujan. Back then, even Ning Yu and the Dark Emperor were no match for Tujan. Therefore, to defeat this black-robed warrior before him was harder than reaching the heavens. In contrast to Ning Yu's astonishment, Li Tongtian's face was no less astonished. In fact, he was even more astonished. His strength was on par with Ning Yu's, perhaps even slightly weaker than Ning Yu's. Even Ning Yu was no match for this black-robed warrior, much less him. Kiki, a peak primal core warrior and a late-stage martial artist. Not bad at all. Chapter 467. Chapter 467. Robbery. Who are you? Ning Yu tried his best to calm himself down as he shouted. Ning Yu knew better than anyone else that the black-robe cultivator was at the intermediate stage of the Yin-yang realm. He was no match for him if he fought him head-on. The only thing he could do now was to stall for time and let Li Tongtian try to communicate with the outside world. Don't waste your energy. I've already set up a restriction in this room. With the strength of Li Tongtian's soul, he won't be able to break it. The black-robed cultivator seemed to know what Ning Yu was planning. He smiled and said, If you know what's good for you, surrender now and hand over all your treasures and elixirs. As long as I'm satisfied, I can spare your lives. Robbery? Ning Yu and Li Tongtian exclaimed at the same time, feeling incredulous. This was the royal palace and security was tight. The black-robed cultivator had snuck into the palace without anyone knowing, and even set up a soul restriction in the room. It was definitely not as simple as robbery. What nonsense are you talking about? You, hurry up and hand over the storage ring on your wrist. The black-robed cultivator seemed a little impatient as he said coldly to Ningyu, "Otherwise, I'll let you know why flowers are so red." I see. Hearing the black-robed cultivator's words, Ningyu's heart skipped a beat as he vaguely understood what was going on. The black-robed cultivator's robbery was fake, but he wanted the storage ring on his wrist. Moreover, this was the royal palace. A frightening thought surfaced in Ningyu's mind. The black-robed cultivator took orders from the emperor and was sent by the emperor. The more he thought about it, the more Ningyu felt that it was possible. In the end, his expression turned completely cold. This was the royal palace. It was not that there were no cultivators who could come and go as they pleased. However, all of them were extremely powerful. At the very least, the black-robed cultivator before him could not do it. "Why are you dawdling and forcing me to do it myself?" Seeing that Ningyu was unmoved, the black-robed cultivator rose from the ground and charged towards Ningyu. Oh no! The sudden movement of the black-robed cultivator caused Ningyu's expression to change drastically. Without much time to think, he immediately retreated. At the same time, in the process of retreating, Ningyu took out the broken soul sword and slashed out a sword ray with a backhand. Insignificant skill. The black-robed cultivator obviously did not put this sword light in his eyes. With a casual flick of his hand, a cold light flew out and collided with Ningyu's sword light. Chi-chi. When the two collided, the result was not unexpected. The sword light that Ningyu slashed out was instantly shattered. The cold light that the black-robed cultivator flung out was attacking Ningyu at an astonishing speed. Solitaire. At the critical moment, Ningyu injected the essence energy in his sea of consciousness into the absolute soul sword and slashed out a shocking sword wave. Chi! The sword wave and the cold light collided, and a crisp sound rang out. Then, both of them disappeared from the world. Wow, you're not bad. You managed to block 30% of my strength in 2 moves. You're not simple indeed. Seeing that Ningyu had blocked his cold light, the black-robed cultivator did not continue attacking. Instead, his lips curled into a sinister smile. You better be prepared, because I'm going to use my full strength. You're too noisy. If you want to fight, let's fight. Why do you have so much nonsense to say? Just then, Li Tongtian snorted coldly and interrupted the black-robed cultivator. He said in a deep voice, "Don't be fooled by your mid-stage yin-yang realm cultivation. If Ningyu and I join forces, we might be able to take you on." Ha ha ha! Even though he was interrupted, the black-robed cultivator was not angry. After laughing maniacally, he said coldly, "I'd like to see how you're going to fight me together." Ningyu, there's no point in holding back now. Why don't we both use our trump cards and fight this yin-yang intermediate stage cultivator today? Li Tongtian hollered at Ningyu and took out a pill from his robes. In a flash, Li Tongtian popped the elixir into his mouth. Crack! The next moment, a cracking sound could be heard from within Li Tongtian's body, as if something had been unlocked. Following that, Li Tongtian's aura shot up like a rocket, soaring upwards. Pinnacle of primal core. Half a step to yin-yang stage. Early yin-yang stage. In a short span of time, Li Tongtian's cultivation had shot up from the pinnacle of primal core to the early yin-yang stage. This speed of advancement was truly terrifying. Glancing at Ningyu, Li Tongtian's hands began to vibrate in a strange rhythm. In the end, all the yuan qi in the room seemed to be affected, making a buzzing sound. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. In the next moment, a fist wrapped in violent yuan qi shot out and smashed towards the black-robed cultivator's head. Yuan qi surged and was exceptionally cold. Humph! You overestimate yourself. Faced with a fist that was approaching him, the black-robed cultivator snorted coldly and threw out a punch. It collided with Li Tongtian's fist. Bam! The two fists collided and the two figures retreated in unison. Li Tongtian retreated all the way to the edge of the room and only stabilized himself when his back hit the wall. On the other hand, the black-robed cultivator only retreated 3 steps. At this moment, it was clear who had the upper hand. Although Li Tongtian had used the elixir to raise his cultivation to the early yin-yang stage, in terms of raw power, he was still far from the black-robed cultivator. They were not even on the same level. Solitaire. How could Ningyu let Li Tongtian fight alone? With a flick of his sleeves, the red demon sword appeared. Following that, the yuan qi in Ningyu's mind surged and flowed into the red demon sword. When the yuan qi in the red demon sword reached its limit, Ningyu stabbed out. In an instant, a shocking sword wave formed and slashed at the black-robed cultivator's head. Initially, I only wanted to take your Dharma treasures and elixirs. Since you guys are seeking death, don't blame me. Li Tongtian and Ningyu's continuous attacks seemed to have angered the black-robed cultivator, causing him to fly into a rage. After his rage subsided, he launched a torrential attack. Swoosh! The black-robed cultivator moved quickly and appeared in front of Ningyu in the blink of an eye. His fist carried a violent gust of yuan qi and slammed towards Ningyu's chest. If Ningyu was unlucky enough to be hit by this punch, he would be crippled even if he did not die. This was because the black-robed cultivator had used 80% of his strength in this punch. 80% of a yin-yang intermediate stage cultivator strength was enough to kill an ordinary early yin-yang stage cultivator. Damn it! Seeing that the black-robed cultivator's fist was getting closer and closer, Ningyu cursed under his breath, then gathered all the yuan qi in his mind to his wrist, intending to fight head-on with the black-robed cultivator. A late true martial realm cultivator dares to fight head-on with me? You really overestimate yourself. Oh no. Ningyu's actions made the black-robed cultivator smile. However, before he could finish the word strength, his expression changed and he retreated immediately. Swoosh! However, the black-robed cultivator's retreat was obviously slower. Chapter 468. Out of the blue, bam! The speed of Cold Gleam was extremely fast. It arrived in front of the black-robed cultivator almost instantaneously. Under the astonished gaze of the black-robed cultivator, it slammed into his chest. With a dull thud, the black-robed cultivator's body fell backward. Swoosh! After knocking the black-robed cultivator back unexpectedly, Cold Gleam turned around and landed steadily in front of Ningyu. A dog. Seeing Cold Gleam's true appearance, Li Tongtian's mouth was agape in disbelief. He had not expected the black dog to suddenly jump out of Ningyu's storage ring. The most ridiculous thing was that this black dog had actually knocked back the black-robed cultivator, although the black-robed cultivator did not seem to be in any serious trouble. The fact that it could knock him back was enough to show how powerful this black dog was. Dark Emperor. Li Tongtian did not recognize the black dog in front of him, but Ningyu was very familiar with it. Not long ago, the Dark Emperor was bold and daring enough to devour 200,000 Supreme Essence crystals. Initially, Ningyu thought that the Dark Emperor would need at least a month to completely refine the 200,000 Supreme Essence crystals in his body. Who would have thought that the Dark Emperor would refine all the Supreme Essence crystals in his body so quickly? He was indeed the king of the Heaven-Devouring Hound clan, the Purple Gold Heaven-Devouring Hound. Ningyu, long time no see. I've missed you. The Dark Emperor was still the same as he raised his proud head and said, Who are you? No, what kind of dog are you? Just then, the black-robed cultivator was enraged and berated. If he had been knocked back by a yin-yang realm cultivator, he would not have said anything. But to be knocked back by a dog, he could not tolerate it no matter what. Furthermore, he was a mid-stage yin-yang realm cultivator, while the black dog in front of him was only at the pinnacle primal core realm. Holy F asterisk CK. How dare you say that about your grandfather? I can't tolerate it. What the Dark Emperor hated the most was others calling him a dog, so when he heard the black-robed martial artist's words, he immediately cursed and said, "Today, I'll let you see the strength of your royal grandfather." The moment the word strength fell, the Dark Emperor leaped forward and used its huge dog claws to grab at the black-robed martial artist's head. "You dare to call yourself Imperial Grandfather in front of me? Fine, I'll have a change of taste today." The black-robed cultivator clearly did not place the Emperor in his eyes. Not only was he not nervous, his lips curled up into an evil smile as he said, "Eat dog meat, drink dog soup. Eat your grandpa." The Dark Sovereign was very fast. In the blink of an eye, he appeared before the black-robed cultivator and swung his huge claws down heavily. Whoosh! How could the black-robed martial artist allow the Dark Emperor to hit him? At the critical moment, his body quickly dodged to the side, barely dodging the Dark Emperor's fatal blow. Following that, the black-robed martial artist and the Dark Sovereign started fighting. "Ningyu, this dog seems to be on good terms with you?" On the other side of the room, Li Tongtian pointed at the Dark Emperor who was fighting with the black-robed martial artist and frowned. "He is very strong, but compared to the black-robed martial artist, he is still lacking." "Don't call him dog, call him the Dark Emperor from now on," Ningyu said hurriedly. What a joke! The Dark Emperor had a bad temper. If he knew that Li Tongtian called him that, Li Tongtian would probably not have a good time. Dark Emperor? Li Tongtian was a little embarrassed and hesitated. "That's right, his name is the Dark Emperor. That's what you'll call him from now on." Ningyu nodded and then turned his gaze to the battlefield. After refining 200,000 supreme primal crystals, the Dark Emperor's cultivation had advanced from the late primal core stage to the peak of the primal core stage. Although it was only a small increase, it was still a huge increase in the Dark Emperor's combat power. When he was in the late primal core stage, the Dark Emperor could fight and even kill a martial artist in the early stage of the Yin-Yang realm. However, against a martial artist in the middle stage of the Yin-Yang realm, he could only run away. But now, the Dark Emperor could fight with the black-robed martial artist in the middle stage of the Yin-Yang realm. At the very least, the black-robed martial artist would not be able to defeat the Dark Emperor in a short period of time. "Zhao Liang, there seems to be some movement inside." At the same time, outside the palace, two martial artists in the half-step Yin-Yang realm were discussing. Among them, the slightly taller martial artist hesitated. "Should we go in and take a look?" "Look at what?" The Emperor personally said that unless the martial artist inside gives a specific signal, no matter what we hear, we're not to leave this place. The martial artist called Zhao Liang said coldly, "Chao Qi, don't say that I didn't warn you. The Emperor is very concerned about this matter. If we mess it up, no one will be able to bear the consequences." "I'm just saying there's no need to make a fuss," Chao Qi said. "Zhao Liang, what is the Emperor trying to do?" One of the two martial artists is at the peak of the primal core stage, and the other is at the late stage of the true martial realm. Then Chao Qi lowered his voice and continued, "As long as we capture the two of them and interrogate them, everything will be solved." "Foolish, foolish, foolish beyond belief," Zhao Liang scolded. "Don't tell me that the Emperor hasn't thought of what you can think of? Do your job honestly. I don't want to be punished by the Emperor because of you." Bang. While Zhao Liang and Chao Qi were arguing, the Dark Emperor seized the opportunity to force the black-robed martial artist back and landed beside Ningyu. "This is so hard to deal with. Ningyu, can't you save some effort? You actually offended a martial artist in the middle stage of the Yin-Yang realm." The Dark Emperor was panting heavily. Obviously, he did not have the upper hand in the fight with the black-robed martial artist. Otherwise, given his nature, he would have mocked the black-robed martial artist long ago. "Damn dog, take another move from me." Before Ning Yu could reply to the Dark Emperor, the black-robed martial artist on the other side flew into a rage and charged at the Dark Emperor once again. F***CK, is there no end to this? The Dark Emperor gritted his teeth, but he knew that with his strength, it would be difficult to defeat the black-robed martial artist. Suddenly, Ning Yu rolled his eyes and sent a voice transmission to the Dark Emperor. "Dark Emperor, stop the black-robed martial artist, and buy me at least 3 minutes." "Damn it, let me try." After cursing under his breath, the Dark Emperor leaped up and charged at the black-robed martial artist. Li Tongtian, hurry up and help the Dark Emperor while the effects of the drug in your body are still there. Remember, no matter what, you have to buy me 3 minutes. Ning Yu's tone was unquestionable, and Li Tongtian was subtly affected. For some reason, Li Tongtian did not have any doubts. He immediately rose from the ground and joined the battle. The Dark Emperor's strength was only slightly lower than the black-robed martial artist, and he could hold on for 3 minutes. Now that Li Tongtian was here, not to mention 3 minutes, he could even hold on for 10 minutes. While the Dark Emperor and the others were fighting, Ning Yu's expression turned serious, because what he was about to do next might be a little crazy. Even if he succeeded, he might be hunted down by the Emperor. However, he did it without hesitation, because if he did not do it, the 3 of them might die here today. Whether I can kill the black-robed martial artist with a single sword depends on this. Chapter 469. Hit. Inside the room, the Dark Emperor and Li Tongtian did not hold back at all. In order to hold off the black-robed martial artist for 3 minutes, both of them used their full strength. Rumble. Faced with the strong attacks of the Dark Emperor and Li Tongtian, the black-robed martial artist did not dare to be careless. He immediately used all his strength. The black-robed martial artist was a mid-stage yin-yang realm martial artist, after all. His full strength caused the Dark Emperor and Li Tongtian to retreat several feet. "If you know what's good for you, get out of my way. Otherwise, the black-robed martial artist said sinisterly. However, before he could finish his sentence, the Dark Emperor said coldly, "Old man, how dare you be so arrogant in front of your grandfather? Why don't you look at yourself in the mirror? Humph, you can be forgiven for your sins." Hearing the Dark Emperor's words, the black-robed martial artist snorted coldly. Yuan Qi surged from his body, and a strong aura pressed down on the Dark Emperor. It's just a small trick. The Dark Emperor was least afraid of aura pressure. It could be said that ever since he advanced to the pinnacle of the primal core realm, he was completely immune to the aura pressure from martial artists below the advanced yin-yang realm. The black-robed martial artist was only of the intermediate yin-yang realm. How could his aura pressure have any effect on the Dark Emperor? "Looks like you won't give up until you see your coffin. Forget it. I will do justice on behalf of the heavens and kill you, arrogant dog." The Dark Emperor's words obviously agitated the black-robed martial artist. His expression turned cold and his aura surged once again. "Li Tongtian, take a few steps back. I want to see if this old man can defeat me in aura alone." The Dark Emperor waved his hand at Li Tongtian and said calmly, "All you have to do is stay here obediently and don't go anywhere." Understood. Li Tongtian was not a fool. He knew the difference between him and the black-robed martial artist. Even though he had advanced to the early yin-yang realm with the elixir, he could not even last 3 moves against the black-robed martial artist. Perhaps Li Tongtian's best choice now was to deal with the myriad of changes by remaining unchanging. TSK. Just then, the black-robed martial artist's aura surged to the limit and pressed down on the Dark Emperor. How comfortable! Under the pressure of the black-robed martial artist's powerful aura, not only did the Dark Emperor not feel uncomfortable, he even revealed an expression of enjoyment. At the same time, he provoked the black-robed martial artist. "Old man, did you not eat? Increase your aura a little more, and let your grandfather enjoy it." "Damn it, When had the black-robed martial artist ever suffered such humiliation? First, he was repelled by the black dog in front of him, and now he was ridiculed. An aunt could endure it, but an uncle couldn't. The black-robed cultivator cursed in a low voice. He quickly retracted his aura and rushed towards the Dark Emperor. Since he could not suppress the black dog in front of him with his aura, the black-robed cultivator simply unleashed a powerful attack. He wanted to defeat or even kill the Dark Emperor with brute force. Good timing! The Dark Emperor turned his head to look at Ningyu, who was still busy. Gritting his teeth, he advanced instead of retreating, clashing with the black-robed cultivator once more. A minute had passed after the commotion just now. In other words, the Dark Emperor only needed to hold on for 2 more minutes, and Ningyu's preparations would be complete. The Dark Emperor was confident that he could hold on for 2 minutes. Hiss hiss! Ningyu did not pay attention to the fight between the Dark Emperor and the black-robed cultivator. At this moment, he quickly extended his palm and held the red demon sword in his hand. At the same time, the soul power in Ningyu's body surged out and flowed towards the red demon sword through his palm. Subsequently, Ningyu activated 4 illusory golden cores, intending to channel all the vitality within them into the red demon sword. In the first minute, Ningyu's peak rank 5 soul power in his body flowed into the red demon sword through his palm, with the exception of some that remained in his body. In the second minute, all the vitality within the 4 illusory golden cores flowed into the red demon sword. Swoosh! In the third minute, Ningyu rose from the ground with the red demon sword in his hand and joined the battle instantly. F***CK Ningyu, what are you doing? Why are you only here now? Seeing Ningyu charging over, the Dark Emperor could not help but curse. Initially, he thought that holding off the black-robed cultivator for 2 minutes would be a piece of cake. Who would have thought that the black-robed cultivator would become more and more courageous as he fought? By the third minute, he was almost unable to hold on. Fortunately, Ningyu joined the battle in time and helped him relieve some of the pressure. Otherwise, he would definitely be severely injured. Cut the crap. You attack from the top, and I'll attack from the bottom. You must give it your all. Ningyu did not want to waste any time and sent a voice transmission to the Dark Emperor. Try your best to attract the black-robed cultivator's attention. Whether or not we can defeat him depends on this. How confident are you? The Dark Emperor's heart skipped a beat, and he asked hurriedly. 50%, Ningyu replied in a deep voice. 50%, huh? The Dark Emperor's expression changed slightly, and he said coldly, that's enough. Ningyu, you must not disappoint me. Swoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, the Dark Emperor moved instantly and used his agile tail to sweep at the black-robed cultivator's head. At the same time, Ningyu's eyes turned cold. Wielding the red demon sword, he slashed at the black-robed cultivator's lower body. Swoosh! On the other side, Li Tongtian gritted his teeth and joined the battle as well. There were still 3 minutes before the medicinal effects in his body dissipated. In other words, he could only maintain the early-stage yin-yang realm for 3 minutes. Once the 3 minutes were up, he would return to his original state, and his cultivation might even drop to a freezing point. 3 minutes was not short, but it was not long either. At the very least, Li Tongtian had to make good use of these 3 minutes to ensure that he could help Ningyu and the Dark Emperor. Scram! However, Li Tongtian was met with tragedy the moment he joined the battle. As the saying went, pick the weakest persimmon to crush. This was the black-robed cultivator strategy. Seeing that Li Tongtian had joined the battle, he forced Ningyu and the Dark Emperor away. Then he threw a punch that landed squarely on Li Tongtian's chest. Bang! The immense force caused Li Tongtian to retreat to the edge of the room before he could stabilize himself. Luckily, he had gathered all his yuan qi on his chest at the critical moment. Otherwise, This move from the black-robed cultivator would have been enough to make him suffer. After forcing Li Tongtian back with a single move, the black-robed cultivator was extremely satisfied and was slightly distracted. Now's the time. After the ruckus from Li Tongtian, Ning Yu's eyes widened in surprise. The next moment, he took advantage of the short second that the black-robed cultivator was distracted to increase his speed to the maximum, even at the cost of burning his remaining soul power. Not good. 1 second was a very short period of time. The black-robed cultivator quickly realized that Ning Yu was charging towards him with a red flying sword in his hand. However, Ning Yu was too fast. By the time he reacted, Ning Yu was already beside him. Furthermore, the red demon's sword in his hand pierced forward. Poof! The sound of a flying sword piercing through flesh rang out in the room. Swoosh! Chapter 470. Tanguting. At the critical moment, a small flying sword flew out from Ning Yu's arms and collided with the cold gleam that the black-robed cultivator had sent out. A crisp sound rang out, and a small green flying sword was sent crashing to the ground. On the other hand, there was a small red flying sword in Ning Yu's hand. Good sword. The flying sword in Ning Yu's hand was no ordinary flying sword, but the good sword of the Red Fiend's sword. Fortunately, I kept the good sword in my arms. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Although he had blocked the black-robed cultivator's green flying sword, Ning Yu still felt a lingering fear. If he had not kept the good sword on a whim, he might have been killed by the black-robed cultivator. Ha ha ha, old fart, to think that you would have such a day. Seeing the black-robed cultivator being struck by the Red Fiend's sword, the Dark Emperor laughed loudly and said, "Now that you've fallen into my hands, I'll make you wish you were dead." Tui, you think you can kill me with just the few of you? How naive. The black-robed cultivator did not seem to understand his current situation. He spat and said sinisterly, "I can leave this room any time I want." Swoosh! The moment he said that, the black-robed cultivator immediately leaped up, wanting to escape from the top of the room. When he came, the black-robed cultivator had descended from the top of the room. Now that he was leaving, he naturally wanted to leave from there. Don't you think it's a little too late to think of escaping now? How could the Dark Emperor give the black-robed cultivator a chance to leave the room? In the next moment, the Dark Emperor rose from the ground and turned into an afterimage. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of the black-robed cultivator, blocking his path. Damn it! Looking at the Dark Emperor who had suddenly appeared in front of him, the black-robed cultivator's expression turned extremely cold. After cursing inwardly, the black-robed cultivator's fist brought with it a violent Yuan Qi gale as it slammed toward the Dark Emperor's head. The black-robed cultivator's punch was extremely powerful. If the Dark Emperor was unlucky enough to be hit, he would be crippled even if he did not die. Not good. The Dark Emperor had not expected the black-robed cultivator to be able to execute such a powerful move after being struck in the chest by the red demon sword. His expression changed drastically, and without any time to think, he immediately retreated. Ha ha ha! You are indeed a retarded dog. To think that I tricked you so easily. In the future we will have. Seeing the Dark Emperor retreat, the black-robed cultivator instantly retracted his fist. Furthermore, the black-robed martial warriors first laughed loudly at the Dark Emperor, then raised his speed to the limit, wanting to escape through the passageway above the room. However, before the black-robed cultivator could reach the entrance of the passageway, he heard Ning Yu's words ringing in his ears. You can use the endoscopy technique to look at your sea of knowledge and see if it's different from before. Hearing Ning Yu's words, the black-robed cultivator's expression darkened. He said coldly, "Trying to play tricks in front of me? You don't have to." The the black-robed cultivator originally thought that Ningyu was trying to blow him up. Who would have thought that as he spoke, he would taste something sweet in his throat and spit out a mouthful of dark red blood? You, what did you do to me? The black-robed cultivator was indeed a middle-stage yin-yang realm cultivator. After a short moment of shock, he immediately calmed down. Hee, I didn't do anything to you. I just left some fun things in your sea of knowledge. Ningyu laughed. Fun things? The black-robed cultivator was slightly stunned as he asked. That's right, just some fun things. Ningyu nodded and said, Soul power and essence chi. Puchi. Hearing the first half of Ningyu's sentence, the black-robed cultivator did not feel anything. However, when he heard the second half of Ningyu's sentence, he could not help but spit out another mouthful of blood. If not for the black-robed cultivator stabilizing his body in time, he might have fallen from the sky. Ningyu, why are you talking nonsense with him? Hurry up and kill him. The Dark Emperor had long wanted to kill the black-robed cultivator, so he was clearly a little impatient. There's no hurry. I'll ask him a few questions first. Ningyu waved his hand, indicating for the Dark Emperor not to cause trouble. Then he said to the black-robed cultivator, Tell me the person who ordered you to do this, and I can spare your life. I, Tengu, have always been a lone ranger, the black-robed cultivator said in a deep voice. So your name is Tengu, Ningyu said indifferently. Since you're not willing to tell me who ordered you to do this, I can only kill you. You dare to kill me? Tengu said coldly. This is the palace. If I die here for no reason, you won't be able to explain it to His Majesty. Ningyu shrugged and said, Although this is the palace, this room is where Li Tongtian and I rest. You barged in for no reason. Even if I kill you, His Majesty won't say anything. After saying that, Ningyu gave the Dark Emperor a look, indicating for him to kill Tengu. The Dark Emperor had been waiting for this moment. After receiving Ningyu's approval, he leaped up and charged towards Tengu. Seeing the Dark Emperor approaching him, Tengu's expression turned uglier and uglier. Even his heart sank to the bottom. He had Ningyu's soul power and vitality in his consciousness. If he dared to act rashly, Ningyu would be the first to not let him off. However, if he didn't escape, he would become a live target, and there was a high chance that he would be killed by the Dark Emperor. Swish! Swish! Just as Tengu was at a loss of what to do, two figures swept in from the passage above the room. After these two figures appeared, without saying a word, they immediately launched a powerful attack at the Dark Emperor. F***CK. Feeling the two powerful attacks coming at him, the Dark Emperor couldn't help but curse and quickly retreated. Bang! Bang! However, the Dark Emperor's attention was completely on Tengu. The sudden appearance of these two martial artists was clearly out of his expectations. The outcome was obvious. The Dark Emperor was hit in the chest by two fists, and his body fell backward like a kite with a broken string. Swoosh! Ningyu reacted quickly and caught the Dark Emperor just as he was about to fall to the ground. In the next moment, Ningyu released his perception and began to check on the Dark Emperor's injuries. When he saw the condition of the Dark Emperor's body, Ningyu's expression turned completely gloomy. Although the Dark Emperor's injuries weren't fatal, he would need at least a few days to recover to his peak. How could Ningyu tolerate the Dark Emperor suffering such a serious injury as soon as he woke up? Moreover, Ningyu was very familiar with the two martial artists in front of him. They were none other than the two gatekeepers at the entrance of this luxurious palace. Half-step yin-yang realm cultivation. Ningyu, this is the Emperor. After severely injuring the Dark Emperor, Zhao Liang pointed at Tengu and said loudly, Ah! However, before he could finish his sentence, he heard a scream. When the scream fell into Zhao Liang's ears, his eyes widened and revealed a look of fear. He turned his body slightly and saw Tang Gu beside him holding his head with an extremely painful expression. Chapter 471. The Ninth Prince. Well, you came at the right time. He trespassed into the palace and has been subdued by Li Tongtian and I. Ningyu pointed at Tang Gu and asked, should we kill him on the spot? This, Zhao Liang's mouth was slightly agape, a little confused. He and Chao Qi had been guarding the entrance of the main hall with their attention focused on the inside of the hall, waiting for a specific signal from Tang Gu. But after a long time, they did not even hear a sound, let alone a signal. Just as they were feeling puzzled, an anxious voice rang in their minds. Go to the room where Ningyu and Li Tongtian are and save Tang Gu. Hearing this voice, Zhao Liang and Chao Qi did not dare to delay and immediately entered the main hall. Fortunately, they came in time and forced the black dog to retreat. Otherwise, Tang Gu would have been killed by the black dog. Originally, they thought that after saving Tang Gu, they could smoothly take him away. Who would have thought that Ningyu would appear out of nowhere, first attacking Tang Gu's soul power, and then asking them a question? Ningyu, this is... Zhao Liang continued after a short moment of confusion. I know he is a cultivator who trespassed into the palace. Ningyu interrupted Zhao Liang again and said calmly, Fine, since you do not want to do it, I will do it for you. Swoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, Ningyu turned into a shadow and appeared in front of Tang Gu in an instant. In the next moment, Ningyu raised his palm and slapped Tang Gu's face. Stop! How dare you! Don't touch him! Seeing Ningyu's strong attack, Zhao Liang, Chao Qi, and even Tang Gu shouted, Slap! However, their shouts did not affect Ningyu. Ningyu's palm landed heavily on Tang Gu's face. In an instant, 5 blood-red palm prints appeared on Tang Gu's face, and traces of blood seeped out. Right? Trespassing into the palace is a capital offense. Do you want to do it, or do you want me to do it? After slapping Tang Gu's face, Ningyu seemed to have thought of something and said directly, Forget it. I'll help him to the end. However, before Zhao Liang and Chao Qi could answer, Ningyu continued, I'll deal with this yin-yang intermediate stage Tang Gu for you. As soon as the word go left his mouth, Ningyu's eyes flashed with coldness. Immediately after, he rose from the ground. While controlling Tang Gu's sea of consciousness, his fist contained a berserk fluctuation of yuan qi as it ruthlessly smashed towards Tang Gu's head. This punch of Ningyu's was extremely powerful and heavy. With Tang Gu's current state, if he was unlucky enough to be hit in the head, he would most likely die. Haha, where it is possible to forgive, one should forgive. How about young hero Ning sell me some face and spare Tang Gu? However, before Ningyu's fist could land on Tang Gu's body, a faint laughter sounded out from outside the room. Creak! Then the door was slowly pushed open, and a young martial artist walked in with a smile. Ning, you raised his eyebrows. His fist stopped 3 centimeters away from Tang Gu's forehead. Ninth Prince. Ningyu didn't know this young martial artist, but Zhao Liang and Chao Qi clearly knew him. Among the many princes, there were 2 most mysterious princes. One was the 9th prince, and the other was the 13th prince. Among them, the 13th prince was often not in the capital, so very few people knew his specific cultivation and strength. However, the 9th prince was different. Among the many princes in terms of martial arts strength, he could be ranked in the top 3. You're Ningyu. After entering the room, the 9th prince's gaze fell on Ningyu. He quickly arrived at Ningyu's side. He first looked Ningyu up and down, and then faintly said, Tang Gu trespassing here was completely unintentional. You're the 9th prince? Before Ningyu could speak, Li Tongtian said in a low voice, If not for the fact that Ningyu and I are strong, we would have been killed by Tang Gu long ago. Don't you think it's a little ridiculous that you're trying to save Tengu just because of an unintentional act? Li Tongtian was filled with anger. It was one thing for him to be bullied by Tengu. After all, he was not strong enough and had no choice. However, the ninth prince's cultivation was the same as his, at the peak of the primal core stage. Why was he acting so tough? In other words, where did he get his courage from? Li Tongtian, your strength is so. The ninth prince glanced at Li Tongtian with a look of disdain. Let me tell you now. Why do I have the right to say such things? Whoosh! With that, the ninth prince dashed forward and appeared in front of Li Tongtian in the blink of an eye. At the same time, the ninth prince threw a punch at Li Tongtian's chest at an astonishing speed. Oh no! Looking at the fist that was getting bigger in his eyes, Li Tongtian's face was filled with fear. When he was at his peak, he naturally would not be afraid of the ninth prince. In fact, he would even spar with the ninth prince. But now, the effects of the drug had worn off and his strength had dropped to a freezing point. It could be said that the ninth prince only needed to use 10% of his strength to easily defeat him. Bam! However, just as Li Tongtian was about to lose all hope, Ningyu suddenly retreated from Tengu's side and appeared in front of him in an instant. Furthermore, Ningyu threw a punch that collided with the ninth prince's fist. The two fists collided and a dull thud could be heard. Immediately, the ninth prince's expression changed drastically as he retreated quickly. Ninth prince, aren't you a little too arrogant to attack me just because of a disagreement? After repelling the ninth prince with one move, Ningyu's tone was cold. Li Tongtian and I are good friends. By attacking him in front of me, you are clearly looking down on me. Also, Tengu launched a strong attack on Li Tongtian and I. If we had not used all our trump cards, we would have been killed by him by now. You want us to let him go with just a few words? That's too casual. At the very least, you should give me a reason to let Tengu go. Ha ha ha. Ningyu's string of words landed in the ninth prince's ears. He was slightly taken aback before he burst into laughter. After laughing, the ninth prince's expression turned completely cold. You and Li Tongtian are good friends, and I am also good friends with Tengu. I wonder if this reason is sufficient. Not very. Ningyu shook his head. If you still can't give me a good reason, I can only send Tengu on his way. Hee hee, I don't have any other reasons. If you want to kill Tengu, you can try. At this moment, the ninth prince had surprisingly calmed down. He was terrifyingly calm. He smiled and said, Don't say I didn't warn you. Tengu is not only good friends with me, but also with my father. You talk too much. Although the Dark Emperor was severely injured, it was still very easy for him to deal with the powerless Tengu. The ninth prince's laughable reason infuriated the Dark Emperor. He growled before he rose from the ground and charged toward Tengu. Bam! Chapter 472. How dare you? Wait a moment. Seeing that the Dark Emperor wanted to kill Tengu, Ningyu waved his hand, signaling him to stop first. Afterwards, Ningyu stood in front of the ninth prince and lightly said, Ninth prince, I believe that Tengu is your friend, but if you say that he is the emperor's friend, I beg to differ. Li Tongtian and I ranked first in the alchemy and martial arts examinations. We've already earned the right to enter Frost Manor. Why would the emperor send someone to kill us? With his majesty's strength, killing us would be as easy as flipping his hand. There's no need for him to wait until now. At this point, Ningyu paused for a moment and then continued. It's fine that you slandered me, but you maliciously slandered the emperor. What is your intention? You. The ninth prince was already somewhat angry when he saw Tengu Town's miserable state. Now that he heard Ningyu's words, he was so angry that his face turned green. Ningyu, don't think that I don't dare to kill you. The ninth prince's face was livid. He let out a low roar and immediately charged toward Ningyu at an astonishing speed. Heaven's wrongs can be forgiven, but one's own wrongs cannot be avoided. Looking at the approaching ninth prince, Ningyu shook his head. "Kacha!" In the next instant, a clear voice resounded from within the room, and then the entire room fell silent. The ninth prince, who was speeding away, suddenly stopped. Then the ninth prince slowly turned around. At the end of the room, a figure was lying on the ground. His face was pale, and his aura had long since dissipated. "Kaka!" The ninth prince's expression immediately darkened. He clenched his fist so hard that cracking sounds could be heard, and a cold expression appeared on his face. The martial artist lying on the ground was none other than the Yin-Yang realm middle stage martial artist, Tengu. Just now, the Dark Emperor had received Ningyu's instructions, so without saying a word, he directly used his tail to break Tengu's neck. After breaking Tengu's neck, the Dark Emperor wrapped him up with his tail and threw him to the end of the room. Gulp! Seeing Tengu lying on the ground, Zhao Liang could not help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. His face was filled with shock. Tengu, who was in the middle stage of the Yin-Yang realm, was killed just like that? The shock on Chao Chi's face was no less than Zhao Liang's. Both of them were at the half-step Yin-Yang state. Their original order was to cooperate with Tengu. Who would have thought that Tengu would be killed by Ningyu and Li Tongtian? No, it should be Ningyu and a black dog. At this moment, they were very confused. Ningyu and the black dog's cultivation were not very high, so how could they kill Tengu, who was in the middle stage of the Yin-Yang realm? Ningyu is indeed terrifying. His control over soul force and Yuan Qi has already reached the pinnacle. Li Tongtian was already rooted to the ground. He mumbled to himself, "When I get back this time, I need to cultivate my soul power properly. I can also sign up for the alchemy competition. Ha ha ha, it's been a long time since I've had such an enjoyable battle. Today is really refreshing." The Dark Emperor was a little arrogant. He first laughed out loud, then said, "If there's something like this in the future, I'll be the first to participate." "Forget it. If it wasn't for me, you would have been killed by Tengu. How dare you boast so shamelessly? Aren't you ashamed?" Ningyu mercilessly exposed the Dark Emperor's daydream and said, "Go back to where you came from. It's not safe here." "Hey, Ningyu, how can you say that? What do you mean I'm boasting? Then let me ask you, was Tengu killed by me?" Hearing Ningyu's words, the Dark Emperor was unhappy and shouted, "You killed him. You're amazing, all right." Ningyu knew the Dark Emperor's temper very well. He had no choice but to say it. However, before Ningyu could finish his sentence, the ninth prince said coldly, "Don't play dumb here. You killed Tengu today. Even if father knew about this, he wouldn't. Cough, cough." Sometimes things in this world were just so coincidental. Just a moment ago, the ninth prince had interrupted Ningyu's speech. Now he was interrupted by two dry coughs. Initially, the ninth prince was furious when he was interrupted. However, when he saw the figure at the door, he immediately calmed down. "Father, why are you here?" "Why can't I be here? If I didn't come, who knows what kind of trouble you're going to get yourself into." Ouyangba wore a cold expression. As soon as he entered the room, he scolded the ninth prince. "Hurry up and go back to face the wall and reflect on your mistakes. You can only come out when you admit your mistakes." After scolding the ninth prince, Ouyangba glanced at Ningyu and said, "Tengu is indeed a member of the royal family. As for why he trespassed here, I'll need to investigate further. Emperor, Tengu has been killed. In my opinion, there's no need to investigate further," Ningyu said in a calm tone. "If there's nothing else, you and Li Tongtian should have a good rest. I'll send someone to pick you up early tomorrow morning." After saying this, Ouyangba turned around and headed out of the room. However, as soon as Ouyangba turned around, he could not help but glance at the Dark Emperor. Furthermore, as soon as he saw the Dark Emperor, a cold grin appeared on his face. Although the grin disappeared as soon as it appeared, Ning Yu still managed to catch it. Did he discover the Dark Emperor's true identity? Ning Yu had a bad feeling, but at the same time he felt that it was unbelievable. Since the Dark Emperor had reached the peak primal core realm, the aura of the celestial devouring hound had almost been completely concealed. The remaining aura of the celestial devouring hound was extremely difficult for ordinary cultivators to discover. At the very least, with Ouyang Ba's cultivation and senses, it was impossible for him to discover the Dark Emperor's true identity. Forget it. Things will eventually sort themselves out. The most important thing now is to let the Dark Emperor rest in the storage ring and recover to his peak condition as soon as possible. Ning Yu was not an indecisive person. Even if the Emperor had discovered that the Dark Emperor was a celestial devouring hound, he would not be able to leave the heavily guarded palace. Let's not talk about whether there would be another Yin-Yang realm intermediate stage martial artist like Tengu. When the Emperor glanced at the Dark Emperor, Ning Yu noticed a soul force probing him and the Dark Emperor without restraint. The soul force was extremely powerful, such that even the Dark Emperor had failed to notice it. If Ning Yu did not have the senses of his past life, he would not have noticed it either. Whoosh! After Ouyang Ba left the room, Zhao Liang and Chao Qi did not dare to stay any longer. The two of them hurriedly lifted Tengu up and left the room. Ning Yu, don't you think there's something fishy about this? After Ouyang Ba and the others left, Li Tongtian said in a deep voice, "In my opinion, Tengu must be Xie." Ning Yu immediately put a finger on his lips to stop Li Tongtian. Seeing Ning Yu's actions, Li Tongtian forcefully swallowed the words that were on the tip of his tongue. "You don't have to say it. I have the same thought as you." Chapter 473. Early Preparation. What do we do now? Li Tongtian was no ordinary martial artist after all. After a short moment of shock, he calmed down. "Wait," Ning Yu said in a low voice. "Wait?" Li Tongtian frowned slightly, feeling a little confused. Now that they were being watched, instead of thinking of a way to leave the palace, they were waiting here. What was Ning Yu up to? "That's right, wait." Ning Yu nodded. "The palace must be heavily guarded now. Given our strength, it's basically impossible for us to leave. Don't forget, I'm also here." The Dark Emperor was unhappy. Ning Yu had obviously excluded him. "You're seriously injured now, so you're considered half." Ning Yu glared fiercely at the Dark Emperor and said, "All we can do is wait and deal with the changes by staying the same." "No, I have to think of a way to contact the outside world." Although what Ning Yu said made sense, Li Tongtian did not want to sit around and wait for his death. The next moment, he flicked his sleeves, and a beam of cold light shot out towards the passageway above the room. Pist pist. However, there seemed to be a transparent barrier at the entrance of the passageway. The moment the beam of cold light came into contact with the barrier, it disappeared from the world. Li Tongtian, don't waste your energy. This room is completely sealed. Ning Yu found a random chair and sat down. He shrugged and said, "If I'm not wrong, you can't even get out of the room." "I don't believe it." Li Tongtian was a straightforward person. After the beam of cold light was swallowed by the barrier, he threw a few more beams of cold light. Pist, 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 pist. The result was not unexpected. The cold light he threw out was completely devoured by the barrier. Humph. After the beams of cold light were swallowed, Li Tongtian snorted and walked towards the door. Soon, Li Tongtian arrived at the door. Poof! This time, Li Tongtian's luck was much worse than before. Just as his palm touched the door handle, it was as though he was struck by lightning. His body could not help but twitch. Bang! Fortunately, Ning Yu dashed forward immediately. He raised his right leg and kicked Li Tongtian's buttocks, waking him up. Otherwise, Li Tongtian would convulse for at least a quarter of an hour. "I told you this room is completely sealed, but you didn't listen." Ningyu grumbled. If it happens again, I can't guarantee that I'll be able to save you. After saying this, Ningyu closed his eyes and quietly released his perception. Ningyu knew that Li Tongtian was a smart man. After failing twice in a row, he would definitely realize that something was wrong and would not do anything stupid again. Therefore, Ningyu began to release his perception, wanting to detect if there were any experts around the palace. To be more precise, he wanted to see if there were any experts who had noticed this room. Who? In the room, Ningyu was scanning the surroundings for any martial artists, while Li Tongtian was much more well-behaved. After being taught a lesson twice, he obediently stayed in the room and did not make any more risky attempts. As for the Dark Emperor, he took out a few supreme yuan crystals out of nowhere and squatted in a corner to chew on them. Gasp! After about 10 minutes, Ningyu took in a deep breath. At the same time, his eyes widened and were filled with shock. This is the palace indeed. There are so many experts. Ningyu's expression was solemn. Actually, it was no wonder that Ningyu's expression was solemn. In the short span of 10 minutes, he had detected at least 5 powerful auras around the palace. Among these 5 auras, the weakest was at the advanced Yin-Yang realm. There was even an aura that had reached the pinnacle of Yin-Yang realm. Ningyu was not too worried about the auras of the pinnacle of Yin-Yang realm martial artists. However, other than the pinnacle of Yin-Yang realm martial artists, he vaguely detected an even more terrifying existence. Furthermore, the terrifying existence had already locked its aura on him. There's a high possibility that it's an existence that has surpassed Yin-Yang realm. Ningyu was extremely shocked and maintained a posture, not daring to act recklessly. Swoosh! Soon, the terrifying aura retreated from Ningyu and stopped on Li Tongtian. As Li Tongtian's soul perception wasn't very strong, he did not realize that anyone had noticed him. To describe Li Tongtian right now, the ignorant were fearless. Next, the terrifying aura changed its target and landed on the Dark Emperor. The Dark Emperor was the emperor of the heaven-swallowing Hound clan after all. He was very sensitive to auras and soul perception. Therefore, when the terrifying aura noticed him, he realized that something was wrong. The Dark Emperor wanted to speak, but Ningyu shook his head at him. As the aura was extremely terrifying, even Ningyu did not dare to speak, afraid that he would be discovered. Although the Dark Emperor was a little rash, he was still rather rational when it came to big matters. After following Ningyu for so long, the Dark Emperor could already understand most of Ningyu's actions. Voila! After about half an hour, Ningyu felt the powerful pressure on his body dissipate. He immediately heaved a sigh of relief and revealed a relieved expression. Ningyu, who was that powerful warrior just now? The Dark Emperor still had a lingering fear in his heart as he asked, "How the hell would I know?" Ningyu rolled his eyes at the Dark Emperor and immediately split out a portion of his perception to pay attention to the changes in the room. This was because Ningyu did not want to waste time. He wanted to use the next few hours to properly cultivate the Netherworld Samsara Palm and the Supreme Nine Purities Sword Art. Previously at the Ivory City's Zhang family, just as Ningyu wanted to cultivate the 6th style of the Netherworld Samsara Palm, he was interrupted by Zhang Hang of the capital's Zhang family, causing him to be unable to cultivate it successfully. Right now, he still had a decent chance. Most importantly, he did not know what dangers he would face next. It was extremely important for Ningyu to raise his strength at this time. The 6th style of the Netherworld, Samsara Palm. Ningyu first recalled the cultivation method of the Samsara Palm in his mind. Then the essence in his sea of consciousness surged out and wrapped around his wrist. Go! With a low roar, Ningyu quickly pushed his palm out and a palm print appeared in an instant. Chi! The palm print had just struck out when it dissipated. Seeing this, Ningyu slowly shook his head and once again infused the essence in his sea of consciousness into his palm and pushed out a second time. Chi! The second palm print did not seem to improve, and it still dissipated as soon as it was sent out. After failing to cultivate 2 palm prints in a row, Ningyu was not discouraged. Instead, he attacked with palm prints again and again. Chi, chi, chi. In the next 3 hours, Ningyu did not know how many palm prints he had sent out, but without exception, all of them dissipated. Not a single one lasted to the end. Samsara palm. On the 100th palm, Ningyu's eyes turned cold. He infused a wave of soul force into his palm and pushed it out. Whoosh whoosh! The power of Ningyu's palm was extremely strong. The surrounding air was compressed and dispersed in all directions. Even Li Tongtian was captivated by this palm print. Break! Crack! In the next instant, Ningyu let out a low roar and a crisp crack sounded. Chapter 474. Set off. Swoosh! The shock wave from the explosion of the palm rushed towards Li Tongtian at an alarming speed, causing his expression to change drastically. Li Tongtian's strength and soul power were not weak, so he could naturally tell that the power of Ningyu's palm was extremely strong. Of course, it was not the palm that was rushing towards him, but the shock wave from the explosion of the palm. Damn it! Li Tongtian couldn't help but curse as he looked at the shock wave that was approaching him. He had not recovered to his peak condition yet, so it was basically impossible for him to withstand the shock wave from the explosion of the palm. Swoosh! In the blink of an eye, Ningyu rose from the ground and appeared in front of Li Tongtian. At the same time, Ningyu's hands began to move in a rhythmic pattern. As Ningyu's hands continued to move, the shock wave from the explosion in front of Li Tongtian seemed to be drawn in and gradually gathered around Ningyu's palms. Boom! In the next moment, Ningyu guided the shock wave from his hands, causing them to rush towards the passageway above the room. The shock wave collided with the barrier, and without any fancy moves, there was a loud explosion. Then, the shock wave and the barrier disappeared together. Whoosh! The moment the barrier disappeared, the expressions of the martial artists hiding in the surroundings changed drastically, and they immediately directed their auras in this direction. Dark Emperor, hurry up and enter the storage ring. When Ningyu threw out the shock wave from his hands, he sent a voice transmission to the Dark Emperor. There will definitely be a large number of martial artists paying attention to this place later. In order to prevent you from being discovered, it's better for you to hide in the storage ring for a while. Swoosh! The Dark Emperor understood the situation he was in, and without any hesitation, he turned into an afterimage and entered the storage ring. Ningyu! Your ring! Seeing the Dark Emperor turn into an afterimage and enter the storage ring, Li Tongtian's mouth was slightly agape, and his face was filled with confusion. Although he was a supreme prodigy and had many heaven-grade magic treasures in his possession, he did not have a single one that could store living things. Shut up! Ningyu's tone was cold as he said in a deep voice, "If you don't want to be exposed, don't speak for a while." Hearing Ningyu's reprimanding tone, Li Tongtian revealed a look of displeasure. However, just as he was about to retort, his heart went cold, and he immediately shut his mouth. This was because he discovered that several powerful auras had already locked onto this room and were probing it without restraint. There was a black dog just now. Why is it gone now? This doesn't make sense. It's a living black dog. How could it disappear just like that? Even if we kill it and eat its meat, there will be dog bones left behind. After several powerful senses locked onto the room, they did not probe for too long before focusing their attention on the Dark Emperor. The corners of Ningyu's mouth twitched involuntarily as he listened to the discussions of these powerful practitioners. Experts from the royal family were actually discussing a dog. If word of this got out, it would definitely cause a huge commotion in the capital. What kind of dog would it have to be for so many experts to be discussing it so enthusiastically? One of the practitioners did not go with the flow. His attention was on Ningyu. More accurately, it was on the storage ring on Ningyu's wrist. If I'm not wrong, It's a magic treasure that can store living things. The practitioner frowned, then shook his head and muttered, "Forget it. Let's wait until they enter the ice manor before making a move. If we make a move now, people might talk behind our backs. Sigh, it's all because of Li Tongtian." With that, the practitioner sighed softly and retracted his senses. The rest of the practitioners also retracted their senses when they noticed the practitioner's actions. The perception of these cultivators came and went quickly, almost completely disappearing in an instant. Phew! Feeling the many senses disappear, Ningyu heaved a sigh of relief. After calming himself down, Ningyu said in a deep voice, "Li Tongtian, tell me about the Ice Manor." This trip to the Ice Manor was destined to be fraught with danger. As the saying goes, know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated. What Ningyu needed to do now was to do everything he could to understand the Ice Manor and the royal family. The Ice Manor is a palace. Li Tongtian broke out in a cold sweat when those senses swept across the room unscrupulously just now, because Li Tongtian realized that he was no match for the owner of all the senses. The Ice Manor is divided into the inner and outer residences. Li Tongtian explained, as long as you are a genius of the royal family, you can enter the outer residences to cultivate. But to enter the inner residences, you must obtain the emperor's approval. In other words, no matter how talented you are, as long as the emperor doesn't approve, you cannot enter the inner residences of the Ice Manor to cultivate. There are quite a lot of restrictions. Ningyu frowned and asked again, "Have you entered the inner residences?" Li Tongtian shook his head and said, "I've only stayed in the outer residences. As for the inner residences, I haven't entered." "All right, there are still 3 to 4 hours before daybreak. Use this time to rest well and try to recover to your peak tomorrow morning." Ningyu did not ask any more questions. Instead, he sat down cross-legged and started cultivating. Ningyu had successfully cultivated the 6th form of the netherworld samsara palm. However, Ningyu had only cultivated the 6th form of the 9 purities supreme sword technique to the intermediate stage. If he could cultivate it to the advanced stage, Ningyu believed that he would be able to put up a fight against a martial artist of the intermediate stage of the Yin-Yang realm. Time flew. In the blink of an eye, 3 hours had passed. When the first ray of sunlight shone on the soul-breaking sword in Ningyu's hand through the passage above the room, Ningyu opened his eyes with a look of ecstasy. After 3 hours of sleepless cultivation, Ningyu had finally cultivated the 6th form of the 9 purities supreme sword technique, solitaire, to the advanced stage. With the advanced stage of solitaire and the 6th form of the netherworld samsara palm, Ningyu was confident that he could take on a martial artist of the intermediate stage of the Yin-Yang realm. Of course, it would be difficult to kill a martial artist of the intermediate stage of the Yin-Yang realm alone unless Ningyu raised his cultivation to the early stage of the primal core stage. Whoosh! On the other side, Li Tongtian had also woken up. Li Tongtian had already recovered to his peak condition. It was as if he had become a different person. His mental state was excellent. Creak! At this moment, the door to the room was pushed open from the outside. "Ningyu, Li Tongtian, follow me. The emperor is waiting for you at the ice residence." Before the person arrived, the voice came first. Not long after, a figure slowly appeared in front of Ningyu and Li Tongtian. Old Tan. It was really a small world for them to bump into Old Tan again. "Let's go." Since they were going to the ice residence, Ningyu and Li Tongtian did not linger. Instead, they rushed towards the ice residence ahead of Old Tan. Humph. It's not that easy to reach the ice residence. Chapter 475. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. In the imperial palace, 3 figures were galloping. The first 2 were Ningyu and Li Tongtian, while the last one was Elder Tan. As Li Tongtian knew the way to Frost Manor, He didn't let Elder Tan lead the way. On the contrary, he and Ning Yu left Elder Tan behind. To actually compete with me in speed. Looking up at Ning Yu and Li Tongtian not far away, Elder Tan smiled. Fine, I'll let you know the speed of an early-stage Yin-Yang realm martial artist. Swoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, the Yuan Qi in Elder Tan's consciousness rumbled, and his speed increased by 30%. Elder Tan's speed was originally only half a beat slower than Ning Yu and Li Tongtian. Now that his speed increased by 30%, he naturally caught up to Ning Yu and Li Tongtian easily. Sigh, it's been a long time since I've exercised. Today is considered, after catching up to Ning Yu, Elder Tan sighed. Just as he was about to mock them, he saw Ning Yu and Li Tongtian's speed increase, leaving him behind again. Damn it! The actions of Ning Yu and Li Tongtian caused Elder Tan's face to turn ashen as he clenched his fists. Swoosh! The next moment, Elder Tan gritted his teeth and increased his speed again. This time, Elder Tan's speed increased by more than twofold. With his speed doubled, Elder Tan caught up to Ning Yu and Li Tongtian for the second time. Li Tongtian, it's uncomfortable to have a fly following us. Let's speed up a little. Before Elder Tan could speak, Ning Yu turned to look at him and said, We mustn't let His Majesty wait for too long. I'm so pissed. Hearing Ning Yu's words, Elder Tan was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. Ning Yu was obviously looking down on him. Every time he increased his speed, Ning Yu would increase his speed. When he slowed down, Ning Yu would slow down as well. In any case, the distance between him and Ning Yu was always so long. The aunt could endure it, but the uncle couldn't. What if he couldn't bear it? Chase! That was what Elder Tan was thinking at the moment. In order to catch up to Ning Yu and Li Tongtian, Old Tan did not hesitate to burn his Yuan Qi to increase his speed. In the end, he even burned his blood essence. Unfortunately, even if he burned his soul force, he would not be able to catch up to Ning Yu. Whoosh! However, after flying for 3 minutes, Ning Yu and Li Tongtian stopped in their tracks. Ha, I finally caught up. Caught up? Seeing Ning Yu and Li Tongtian stop, Elder Tan thought that they had expended too much essence qi and wanted to replenish it. However, when he saw the 3 silhouettes in front of Ning Yu, his eyes were filled with surprise, because Elder Tan recognized the 3 martial artists blocking Ning Yu's path, and he was very familiar with them. This is the Imperial Palace, not a place for you to behave atrociously. Among the 3 martial artists, 2 were fat and 1 was skinny. After blocking Ning Yu and Li Tongtian's path, one of the fat men berated, Hurry up and tell us your names, genders, residences, and what you're going to do. Just tell us all the random stuff. What if I don't? Ning Yu said in a low voice. When he saw that the path to Ice Manor was blocked, Ning Yu's first thought was that someone was here to cause trouble. Indeed, the 3 martial artists in front of him were here to cause trouble. The 3 of them did not have very high levels of cultivation. The skinny one was only at the pinnacle of the primal core stage. As for the other 2 fat men, one was at the late primal core stage, and the other was at the mid primal core stage. The fat man who had first berated Ning Yu was at the mid primal core stage. Who are you? Why should I tell you these things? Ning Yu stared at them with interest after learning the cultivation of the martial artists in front of him. Oh, you're quite stubborn, to dare to be so arrogant in front of the 3 of us. The late primal core fat man raised an eyebrow and laughed sinisterly. Listen up, kid, we are... All right, I don't want to know who you are, and I don't care. Ning Yu felt that there was no point in staying here with them, so he waved his hand and interrupted the fat man. We'll never meet again. With that, Ning Yu moved again, intending to bypass them and head towards Ice Manor. I gave you face, but you don't want it. You've offended the Emperor. You're destined to spend the rest of your life in bed. However, as soon as Ning Yu reached the late primal core fat man, his eyes turned cold, and he immediately retreated. This was because the late Primal Core Fat Man had attacked instantly, using his fat fist to punch Ningyu's chest. When he made his move, the fat of the late Primal Core Stage Fatty was trembling. Seeing Ningyu retreat, the other mid-Primal Core Fat Man also entered the fray, using his round fat to attack Ningyu. I gave you face, but you don't want it. Even a clay figurine had some anger, not to mention a living person like Ningyu. After a cold snort, Ningyu's hands moved continuously, and in a split second, he sent out 2 palm prints. Smack! Smack! 2 palm prints landed on the cheeks of the 2 fat men, and 5 bloody marks immediately appeared on their faces. How dare you hit me? The 2 fat men seemed to have been beaten senseless, and they stood there in a daze. Pointing at their own noses, they asked, "Do you know my father's name?" "What does your father's name have to do with me?" Ningyu did not care what their father's name was. They could not all be called Li Gang, right? They are twins, surnamed Li, and their father is Li Gang. Next to him, the skinny peak Primal Core cultivator's words made Ningyu almost vomit his bile out. Wasn't this too much of a coincidence? Swoosh! Seeing that Ningyu was stunned, the thin warrior's lips curled up into a smile. In the next moment, the thin warrior took advantage of Ningyu's moment of shock, clenched his hand into a fist, and with a violent gust of Yuan Qi, he viciously punched towards Ningyu's head. The thin warrior was a peak Primal Core warrior, and he was an expert in sneak attacks. If he had not been prepared, even an early Yin-Yang warrior would have fallen to his sneak attack. Bang! However, just as the thin warrior's fist arrived in front of Ningyu raised his right leg and kicked the thin warrior in the chest. The huge force from the chest caused the thin warrior's face to contort and his body to fly backwards. A crisp sound rang out. The skinny cultivator hit the ground and fell face first onto the ground. Ha ha ha! Seeing the thin warrior fall to the ground, Tan Lao laughed hysterically and immediately sent a voice transmission to Ningyu. "Ningyu, you are finished this time. To tell you the truth, the fathers of the 3 of them are top-notch in the Great Xia Kingdom. The twins' father is General Weiwu of the Great Xia Kingdom, and he is at the peak of the early Yin-Yang realm. The thin warrior's father is General Huben of the Great Xia Kingdom, and he is at the middle stage of the Yin-Yang realm. Not only are they strong, but they also have powerful backers behind them. How could they let you off after you injured their sons? That's right, I forgot to tell you something. General Weiwu and General Huben are both in the palace today. If I didn't guess wrongly, they should be." Chapter 476. Swoosh! 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 As soon as old Tan's voice fell, Ningyu saw 2 figures dashing over from afar. The 2 figures were very fast, and they arrived almost in the blink of an eye. One is at the peak of the early stage Yin-Yang realm, and the other is at the mid-stage Yin-Yang realm. Sensing the powerful aura exuding from the 2 martial artists in front of him, Ningyu's face turned slightly solemn. He said in a deep voice, "It seems that old Tan is right. I wonder if they are the 2 generals Might Wu and Huben." The reason why Ningyu was able to discover the cultivation of the 2 martial artists at a glance was because they released their aura without holding back. "You're Ningyu." The middle-aged man at the peak of the early stage Yin-Yang realm stared at Ningyu and said in a sinister tone, "You injured my 2 sons, so leave an arm behind." "How can an arm be enough? In my opinion, you should at least break both of his legs." The middle stage Yin-Yang realm berated. If we hadn't discovered it in time, who knows what kind of heartless things Ningyu would have done now. "Forget it. I'll make the first move and break one of his arms." The martial artist at the peak of the early stage Yin-Yang realm waved his hand and rose from the ground. Swoosh! He turned into a shadow and appeared beside Ningyu in an instant. Crack! In the next instant, Ningyu only heard a cracking sound beside him. Immediately, he did not dare to be negligent. He quickly wrapped his yuan qi around his fist and punched out. Boom! Ning Yu's fist collided with the fist of the early-stage yin-yang realm martial artist. What happened next was somewhat out of the expectations of the martial artists present. It was especially so for Old Tan and the middle-stage yin-yang realm martial artist. Both of them stood rooted to the ground, staring at Ning Yu with disbelief written all over their faces. Gulp! A moment later, the middle-stage yin-yang realm Qian, who swallowed a mouthful of saliva with a very interesting expression on his face. He knew Li Gang's strength very well. Although Li Gang wasn't as strong as him, he wasn't much weaker. Ning Yu was able to fight Li Gang to a draw. Didn't that mean that it was extremely likely that he would lose to Ning Yu as well? Thinking of this, Qian, whose expression completely darkened. As a middle-stage yin-yang realm martial artist, if he couldn't even subdue Ning Yu, who was in the late stage of true martial realm, how could he maintain his foothold in the capital? Therefore, in Qian Hu's heart, even if he had to use his trump card, he had to teach Ning Yu a lesson. Damn it! Damn it! Compared to Qian Hu's shock, Old Tan was much less shocked. After all, he had fought with Ning Yu before and knew Ning Yu's true strength. However, he had never expected that Ning Yu could fight Li Gang, who was at the early stage of yin-yang realm, to a draw. Although Li Gang's cultivation was not high, he was extremely powerful. It could be said that even two of him might not be able to defeat Li Gang. After defeating Li Gang, there's still Qian Hu. I don't believe that you can defeat Qian Hu as well. Old Tan snorted coldly and said sinisterly. In short, from Old Tan's point of view, Ning Yu would definitely suffer a little this time. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to overcome this obstacle. Swoosh! At this moment, Qian Hu rose from the ground and rushed towards Ning Yu. Being on the battlefield all year round, Qian Hu had developed a very good habit, that was to never underestimate anyone, even if that martial artist had nothing and was weak. There was another point that Qian Hu pursued. If he could fight two against one, he would never fight one-on-one. In this aspect, he was very similar to Ning Yu. Swoosh! However, just as Ning Yu was about to make a move, he saw a figure flash past in front of him. This figure was none other than Li Tongtian. Li Tongtian flicked his sleeves, and a black token appeared in his hand. The next moment, Li Tongtian raised the black token in his hand and paused in front of Qian Hu for a second before putting it away. Gasp! Seeing the token in Li Tongtian's hand, Qian Hu could not help but suck in a breath of cold air despite his powerful strength. At this moment, another thought popped up in his mind. Li Tongtian could not be offended. At the very least, he could not. D***, the ninth prince is pushing me into a pit of fire. Qian, whose face darkened. Not long after, he gritted his teeth and said in a low voice, Li Gang, let's retreat. Retreat? Why should we retreat? Li Gang still wanted to regain his dignity. He would definitely not be willing to leave now. We can't afford to offend the martial artist next to Ning Yu. After saying that, Qian Hu grabbed the skinny martial artist in his hand and rose from the ground, rushing into the distance. Seeing that Qian Hu had left, Li Gang could only glare at Ning Yu before dragging his two fat sons and disappearing. F***CK. Old Tan was a little dumbfounded as he looked at the backs of Qian Hu and the rest. Initially, he thought that Ning Yu would have to suffer a little. After all, Ning Yu had injured the sons of two generals. Who would have thought that everything would end just as quickly as it came? Qian Hu and Li Gang didn't know what had gotten into them, but they chose to leave right away. They didn't even say a word. Based on Old Tan's understanding of Qian Hu and the rest, this was not their style. Pill! Ning Yu's brows were tightly knitted as a look of confusion appeared on his face. When Li Tongtian took out the black token, Ning Yu noticed that there was a word on it. It was the word pill. As for the rest of the words, Ning Yu could not see them clearly for the time being. Ning Yu, we've wasted so much time here. Let's hurry up and leave, Li Tongtian said in a low voice. Let's go. Ning Yu wasn't an indecisive person. When Li Tongtian mentioned that he wanted to leave, he stomped on the ground and dashed towards the ice manor. Li Tongtian did not dare to delay. After Ning Yu left, he immediately leaped up and followed closely behind. In the beginning, Ning Yu and Li Tongtian's speed was not slow. In fact, it could be described as terrifying. However, as they got closer to Ice Manor, Ning Yu and Li Tongtian's speed became slower and slower. In the end, they just walked. When we reach Ice Manor later, the two of you must remember not to make too much noise and cause trouble. Don't. 10 minutes after Ning Yu and Li Tongtian slowed down, Old Ten caught up with them. In order to show his authority, Old Ten coughed dryly. Following that, Old Ten talked nonstop as if he did not know what fatigue was. Ning Yu and Li Tongtian only chose to listen to the main points. The rest were filtered out. I've said everything that needs to be said. Good luck. After about 15 minutes, Old Tan finally stopped. He extended his palm and pointed at the wooden door in front of him. Open this wooden door and you'll be considered to have entered Ice Manor. As soon as he finished speaking, Old Tan turned to leave. Old Tan, didn't you say that His Majesty was waiting for us at Ice Manor? Ning Yu called out to Old Tan. Why didn't I see him here? Who do you think His Majesty is? Why would he be here to welcome you? Chapter 477. The Three Guardians. I can see the Emperor if I enter the inner palace? Ning Yu frowned slightly when he heard Old Tan's words, and a puzzled expression appeared on his face. Li Tongtian had said that he had to get the Emperor's permission to enter the inner palace. Now Elder Tan was saying that he could only see the Emperor if he entered the inner palace. Why? However, when Ning Yu wanted to continue asking, he realized that Elder Tan had already disappeared. Ning Yu, are you going in or not? Just then, Li Tongtian asked. Li Tongtian wasn't sure if he wanted to enter the Ice Manor either, so he wanted to ask Ning Yu for his opinion. Of course I'm going in. Ning Yu's eyes turned cold as he pushed open the wooden door and walked in. Li Tongtian hesitated as he watched Ning Yu enter the Ice Manor, but he quickly followed. Swoosh! Just as Ning Yu stepped through the wooden door, a cold glint shot towards him. The sudden change caused Ning Yu's expression to change slightly. He didn't have the time to think and immediately retreated. Crack! In the next moment, a clear, cracking sound resounded. Ning Yu looked back at the wooden door that had been smashed into smithereens and gasped. Luckily, he had dodged in time, or he would have ended up like the wooden door. Welcome, both of you. This is the outer palace of Ice Manor. If you can defeat me, you will pass the test and enter the inner palace. Before Ning Yu could calm down from the shock, he saw a young man walking towards him step by step from a short distance away. Ning Yu's expression changed as he looked at the young man, because he sensed a strong aura of danger from the young man's body. This meant that the young man was extremely powerful. Pinnacle of the Primal Core stage. However, the young man was only at the pinnacle of the Primal Core stage. Ning Yu, he is one of the three guardians of the outer palace of Ice Manor. Li Tongtian walked over and said in a low voice, 3 great protectors. Ning Yu was taken aback and asked doubtfully, That's right. Li Tongtian nodded and said, There are 3 guardians in the outer palace of the Ice Mansion. It is said that their cultivation level has always been at the pinnacle of the Primal Core stage, but their true strength is unparalleled. There were 3 early Yin-Yang realm martial artists who tried to break into Frost Mansion. Frost Mansion only sent out 1 Outer Mansion Guardian to capture the 3 early Yin-Yang realm martial artists alive. Pa, pa, pa. As soon as Li Tongtian finished speaking, the young man clapped his hands and said with a faint smile, Looks like you know a lot about Frost Manor. However, after that, the young man changed the topic and said gloomily, If you want to enter the outer palace, you must pass through me. Cover your ears." When the young man's last sentence fell, Ning Yu's expression changed greatly, and he hurriedly covered his ears. Ah! Ning Yu had just covered his ears when he saw Li Tongtian hugging his head with both hands, looking extremely pained. Damn it! Li Tongtian's pained expression obviously agitated Ning Yu. In the next instant, he pushed off the ground with both feet, and like a cheetah, he appeared in front of the young man in an instant. Whoosh! Following that, Ning Yu's fist brought with it a violent gust of yuan qi, and he viciously punched the young man's chest. Seeing Ning Yu's sudden attack, the young man raised his eyelids slightly, and an evil smile appeared on his lips. Then the young man punched out, and his fist collided with Ning Yu's. Bang! Before the two fists collided, the young man's expression was very relaxed and even a little playful. However, after the two fists collided, the young man's expression changed drastically, and he wanted to retract his fist. Humph! How dare you use sound wave techniques? What a vicious heart! How could Ning Yu let this young man go? With a cold snort, he clenched his right hand into a fist and punched the young man's ear. There were many types of sound wave techniques, but no matter which one it was, if one was not prepared, it would cause great damage to a martial artist. It could be said that, if not for Ning Yu's timely attack, Li Tongtian might have lost his hearing. Whoosh! Whoosh! However, before Ning Yu's fist could land on the young man's ear, two figures attacked from afar. These two figures were filled with violent yuan qi. The moment they appeared, they launched a powerful attack on Ning Yu. However, these two martial artists had a purpose in their attacks. They wanted to force Ning Yu to retreat, and thus save the young man. "Since you want to play, I'll play with you this time." Ning Yu gritted his teeth and immediately took out the soul-severing sword. At the same time, the yuan qi in his mind was frantically injected into the soul-severing sword. Buzz! Solitaire! After the soul-severing sword vibrated to a certain extent, Ning Yu chopped down with his wrist. In an instant, two shocking sword waves formed and attacked the two martial artists who had just appeared. Oh no! The two martial artists who had just appeared were not idiots. They could naturally sense the power of the sword waves. Helpless in order to ensure their own safety, they could only choose to retreat. Ah! Before the two of them could retreat a few steps, they heard a scream that sounded like a pig being slaughtered. Third brother, turning their heads to see the man lying on the ground, the two martial artists who had just appeared opened their mouths in shock. This was because the man lying on the ground was none other than the young man. Bang! Bang! However, the two of them seemed to have forgotten that they had been targeted by the sword waves. The outcome was obvious. They were hit by solitaire. Uft! Uft! The two martial artists each spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. Their faces were a little pale. Careless, completely careless, Ning Yu was only at the late stage of the true martial realm. With the strength of the three of them, they could have easily defeated Ning Yu. Instead of doing such an easy task, they had to put on a show and let third brother deal with Ning Yu, resulting in their failure. Ning Yu, you defeated the three of them, just like that? What had happened in such a short period of time had completely exceeded Li Tongtian's expectations. More accurately, he had not expected Ning Yu to be able to defeat the three guardians of the Ice Mansion's outer mansion so easily. One had to know that the three guardians of the Ice Mansion's outer mansion were extremely powerful. If they joined forces, they could even fight against a mid-stage Yin-Yang realm martial artist. In that case, did that mean that Ning Yu could also fight against a mid-stage Yin-Yang realm martial artist? Thinking of this, Li Tongtian's eyes revealed an extremely shocked expression. High alchemy skills and strong martial arts skills. What kind of monster was Ning Yu? Li Tongtian, don't just stand there. Let's hurry to the Ice Mansion's inner mansion. Just as Li Tongtian was in a daze, Ning Yu's voice rang in his ear. Hearing Ningyu's words, Li Tongtian was slightly taken aback. Lifting his head, he saw that Ningyu had already started walking towards the Ice Mansion's inner mansion. This time, Li Tongtian did not hesitate and hurried to catch up with him. With such a display of strength the moment they entered the Ice Mansion, who knew what kind of danger they would face when they entered the inner mansion. Chapter 478. Freezing Silver Needles. Your Majesty, are you really going to let Ningyu and Li Tongtian stay in the inner palace for a day and a night? In a room in the inner palace of the Ice Mansion, there was a crystal barrier on the wall. What had happened in the outer palace of the Ice Mansion was reflected on the crystal barrier as if history was repeating itself. Towards the end, an elder in the room said in a deep voice, "Give me some more time. I can definitely break the formation." "You may leave first. I have my own arrangements for this." Beside the elder, Ouyangba closed his eyes and waved his hand. "What you need to do now is to open the door to the inner palace of the Ice Mansion and let Ningyu and Li Tongtian in." Hearing Ouyangba's words, the elder's chest heaved up and down unwillingly. However, this unwillingness did not show on the elder's face. Understood. After responding, the elder slowly left the room. Creak! After the elder closed the door, Ouyangba's lips curled into an evil smile. After probing for so long, the real business is finally here. I hope you won't disappoint me. Otherwise... Ouyangba did not finish a sentence, but the meaning was clear. At the same time, Ningyu and Li Tongtian arrived at the entrance of the inner palace of the Ice Mansion. Looking at the stone door before him, Ningyu frowned slightly, feeling slightly surprised. This was because he realized that when his senses came into contact with the stone door, it was like a stone sinking into the ocean, and was directly swallowed by the stone door. Swallowing senses was enough to prove the uniqueness of the stone door before him. Creak! However, Ningyu's shock did not last long before he was attracted by the deep sound of the stone door opening. Not long after, the stone door was opened from the inside. After the stone door opened, an elder slowly walked out from inside. Seeing the elder, Ningyu's heart skipped a beat and he had a bad feeling. This was because he could clearly sense a hint of coldness on the old man's face. This was the first time he had met the elder, right? Why would the elder be hostile towards him? Could it be that the old man was the guardian of the Ice Mansion's inner mansion, and the reason he came out this time was to stop him from entering the Ice Mansion's inner mansion? Ningyu, Li Tongtian, since you've passed the alchemy and martial arts tests set up by the emperor, you can stay in the inner palace of Ice Mansion for a day and a night. The old man suppressed the anger in his heart and said in a low voice, "However, it is not easy to enter the inner palace of Frozen Mansion. You will need to pass my test." "There's a test?" Ningyu frowned and pondered for a moment before saying something that surprised the old man. "If that's the case, then we'll take our leave." With that, Ningyu turned around and left. He had no intention of staying. Ningyu's actions caused the old man to be slightly taken aback. Soon after, he sneered and said, "I don't believe that you really want to leave Ice Manor." In the old man's opinion, Ningyu was just saying it. There was no way he would leave the Ice Mansion. Whoosh! However, as Ningyu walked further and further away from him, the old man finally changed his expression. Ningyu wouldn't really leave the Ice Mansion, would he? If Ningyu really left Ice Mansion, then he would not be able to withstand the Emperor's wrath. Damn it! Cursing, the old man rose from the ground and appeared in front of Ningyu in an instant, blocking Ningyu's path. "There's no more test. You can enter the inner palace of Ice Mansion unconditionally," the old man said through gritted teeth, his expression extremely rich. Hearing this, Ningyu stopped. If that's the case... Turning around, Ningyu said to the old man, "Thank you." As soon as he finished speaking, Ningyu strode toward the stone door. "Ningyu, could this be a trap?" Li Tongtian was still a little worried and asked in a low voice, "When we enter the inner palace later, we will leave this place as fast as we can," Ningyu said in a low voice. "How fast?" "As fast as we can." Whoosh! In the next moment, Ningyu and Li Tongtian moved and entered the inner palace. When he saw Ningyu and Li Tongtian enter the stone door, the corners of the elder's mouth curled up and he sneered. "I have opened the stone door. As for whether you can successfully reach the emperor, that will depend on your luck." Whoosh! Whoosh! As the old man's cold laughter faded, Ningyu and Li Tongtian increased their speed, desperately trying to get away from the stone door. Ding! Ding! However, even though Ningyu and Li Tongtian pushed their speed to the limit, they were still half a beat too slow. Suddenly, two beams of cold light shot out from behind the stone door, aiming for their heads. At this critical juncture, Ningyu and Li Tongtian both took out a flying sword and slashed at the cold beams. Two crisp sounds rang out and the cold beams fell to the ground. Silver needles? Staring at the two silver needles on the ground, Ningyu and Li Tongtian looked at each other in horror. Ice Soul silver needles. Almost at the same time, Ningyu and Li Tongtian shouted. The Ice Soul silver needles were heaven upper grade magical treasures and were extremely powerful. To put it more accurately, the Ice Soul silver needles contained poison, which was why they were so powerful. The two Ice Soul silver needles on the ground could easily injure a Yin-Yang realm early-stage martial artist. If a Yin-Yang realm early-stage martial artist did not receive treatment in time, he could very well lose his life. The more they thought about it, the more terrifying it was. At this moment, Ningyu and Li Tongtian's hearts were filled with fear. Luckily, they reacted in time. Otherwise, the consequences would be dire. Count yourselves lucky. But when you come out, you won't be so lucky anymore. Outside the stone door, the old man used a special method to see the two Ice Soul silver needles on the ground. He could not help but clench his fists tightly. Then, the old man tore through the air and disappeared. Ningyu, let's leave quickly. Li Tongtian was afraid that the Ice Soul silver needles would attack the stone door again. He did not want to stay here for a moment longer. Don't rush. I have a use for these two Ice Soul silver needles. Ningyu did not leave immediately. Instead, he took 2 steps forward and kept the Ice Soul silver needles. The Ice Soul silver needles were no longer poisonous. They only had the hardness of a heaven upper grade magical treasure. All right, let's go see the emperor now. After keeping the Ice Soul silver needles, Ningyu walked forward. Ningyu, do you know where the emperor is? Li Tongtian was stunned and asked. Of course I do. Ning, you kept him in suspense, and smiled. Li Tongtian followed behind Ningyu doubtfully. He did not know if he could find the emperor. After a while, they stopped in front of a house. Your Majesty, we have arrived. Can we go in? After stopping, Ningyu asked in a clear voice. Hee, you are indeed a young talent. You have arrived at the Ice Manor so quickly. A laugh came from the room. Come in, the door is open. Let's go. Hearing the words coming from the room, Ningyu did not hesitate. He went to the door and pushed it open. I don't believe that the emperor would dare to do anything to me. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.